So yeah, I started the recording, so we'll do our usual thing where if we say something
we
funny,
just kind of we just kind of talk and then we say something funny and then we cut into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I don't think this will be the thing that'll cut into it because it's DRV3 and not DR2, but I still want to do the thing again of Kaito, I'm trying to solve the case, but I'm dummy thick, and the clap of my ass cheeks keeps alerting the exosols.
Oh, yes.
Don't remind me.
You can't even get off the floor. It's real cold on the floor.
It's real cold on the floor, Hajime. Oh, wait, I just realized, since this is the DR2 episode, should we introduce it as Nagito Library?
Yeah, probably.
I hate it already.
Hajime.
Wow, I hate it already.
Hey, Hajime, I turned myself into a podcast, Hajime. I'm Game
Oh
Library,
my God.
I'm Nagito Library.
Whoa!
I hate it even more. I hate it even more.
Whoa!
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 Now, this is what I call a Viking-sized adventure.
Wow, Hajime, what's up next? SeaWorld?
Yes, Hajime, we're going to SeaWorld!
Wow!
We're gonna see the orcas, Hajime!
Man, I can't wait to see the orcas, Hajime! Man, do you think the orcas are happy there? Or is it like all of those documentaries?
I hate this.
Oh, well, let's just hope they're as lucky as we are, Hajime. This is a really confusing analogy.
Analogy? I don't know what you're talking about, Hajime. Anyway.
Welcome to Game Library.
I'm going to hate
Welcome
this.
to Nagito Library!
Hajime!
Hajime.
Where the games are fun and the people are hopeful. Hello.
So it's been a while.
It sure has.
Yeah, you'll
Da-da-da.
notice that despite the game last week being suggested by Dream, he couldn't make it this time.
Yeah, he's
How
got busy
disrespectful.
life stuff.
He's a busy
But-
bee.
Yeah, and depending on how things go, episodes might pick up in frequency soon.
Hopefully.
So-
Hopefully.
That's good. I'm expecting them, but
Mhm.
we shall always see, you know. But yeah, maybe we should reintroduce ourselves since there hasn't been an episode for 2 months.
Okay.
I'm Zanza. I'm the ultimate cryptid. I exist in my cave, and I like video games and shit.
Mhm.
And you, Austin.
Hey guys. So I'm Austin. I'm the ultimate monkey, and
You forgot to say the thing!
Wait, what? What?
You're Austin or Patronix.
Oh, or
Whichever
Patronix,
you
whichever
prefer.
you prefer. I was confused for a second. I'm Austin or Patronix. Oh fuck, I dropped my pencil. I'm Austin or Patronix, whichever you prefer. I'm the ultimate monkey. I forgot to turn off my heater, so now it's off and there will no longer be wind in the background. This is my YouTube channel that the podcast is on. I do other things sometimes. I do art. I do things.
Yeah, he does D&D on the Twitch
on
thing.
twitch.tv/Patronix1234.
Or Austin, whichever you prefer.
Yeah, or Austin, whichever you prefer.
Hey, Sylvia, introduce yourself.
Yeah.
I'm Sylvia, the ultimate Sylvia. I do lesbian things.
Whoa.
She does.
That's my that's my gimmick. That's my character. I hope you enjoy it for the time that we're together.
I don't have
And
a
if you
character
don't, then
motive.
you might as well leave now. I'm kidding. Please don't. We love you.
I don't have a character motive.
Well, my character motive is I just wanted this episode to be the most hopeful episode it can be, guys.
Wow.
I sincerely hope there's someone who is sane in the audience, in the metaphorical audience, so that they can suffer through this with me.
Oh no, Hajime. There was a sane person, but I turned them into a pickle, Hajime.
And
they're pickle audience member now.
not only that, but what's that? The other half of the audience, is that Mondo butter on my sleeve again?
Oh, Oh, Hajime, we're in the strawberry house, Hajime. We don't have any more food, but I found this Mondo butter, Hajime. You're gonna have to lick it off my finger, Hajime.
Come on, Hajime.
Oh no, I spilled it. I spilled it all over my pants, Hajime. You're gonna have to suck it off my crotch, Hajime.
Come on,
You're gonna have
Hajime.
to suck the Mondo butter. It's for our survival.
I don't like this. I really
It's
don't
for our
like
survival.
Come on, Hajime. Anyway, I swear we don't usually do the Nagito this bad. It's just that this episode's special because it's the game where he's actually a thing.
I know. It's so weird to think that sense.
Yeah. So yeah, normally on this podcast, when we're not doing this, we have, so like the first half is what it should be, but it usually ends up being third or quarter, is talking about recent video game developments or news or whatever the hell we want to talk about, even if it's not specifically video games. And then the second half, or whatever, the rest of it is sort of like a book club type of deal. Each of us suggests a game, we come back, we talk about it after we have all played it. This one's going to be a bit different from the other ones because of the circumstances that I'm sure we'll talk about when we get to talking about it, in like the circumstances of how we played it. But yeah,
that will be for later.
It will.
For now, we've got some news stuff to go on, and we're gonna try to be a little light. We're gonna not cover everything because, again, last episode was like 2 months ago or something.
Yeah.
So,
well, at least it was recorded 2 months ago. I still haven't been able to upload it yet.
Austin, I'll send Oliver Oilington to your house to purchase all of your everything unless you upload it.
I'm planning on uploading it soon, and I'm gonna put like a little notice in the front of it that's like, hey, 2 little special footnotes. 1, this was recording like 2 months ago, so the news is kind of old, but if you like hearing us talk, then sure. And the other thing is that my audio got fucked up and it was double voice again. So
wonderful.
That's what
how unlucky.
I know, right? I mean, I tested it earlier before we started recording now, so it shouldn't be doing that, and if it is, I'll be very mad. But
we're very upset.
I'm very upset. But yeah, with that, let's get right into the news.
Stop.
Stop. Yes,
There we
please.
Well, like, I guess the first thing we should probably talk about is Reggie, quote unquote, recently stepped down as president of Nintendo of America.
Yeah.
And now we got a guy named Doug Bowser.
Yeah.
That's pretty perfect. You think like they had like 2 or 3 finalists in like the job listing, and they're like, and they finally send it to like the heads of like the top of Nintendo or whatever, and they're like, okay, which of these are the absolute best? And then they just saw the name and they picked him.
Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't 100% doubt it, but at the same time, like, I know, like, here's the thing. I have been following Doug Bowser on Twitter for the past however, like, 2 or so years now, because, like, he's just, like, a Nintendo guy. He was there, he would sometimes tweet a funny, and, you know, it was all that. Now he's the president of Nintendo, and,
I thought you weren't going to specify Nintendo.
Yeah. Now he's just the president. Yeah, now he's just the president of, you know, not even the United States or Japan, of the world even.
He's just all...
He's like G from Street Fighter.
Yeah.
He's the shadow president.
Yeah. But basically, when it comes to that, I'll miss Reggie a lot. He was like he was a very prominent figurehead, and one that here's the thing, it's really funny because, like, you know, like, reasonable people who are able to, like, you know, look at Reggie and what he's done, and realistically what he's able to do with a company whose main product comes from Japan, and people are like, wow, Reggie's, like, a really cool, like, president, and he does, like, a whole ton of shit that, like, other people would never do. But then I know, like, around the time when it was first announced, like, I know Dream was going on about this too, all of a sudden saying, like, all this stuff about, like, regarding, like, how a lot of, like, because, I mean, Reggie's been president for, like, a long time now, and he was sort of, like, part of everything during, like, the stuff with the Wii U, which is, like, a big, like, relatively dark, low era for Nintendo, just based off the fact that the console wasn't very well received.
Yeah, although it's not like they lost any money or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the thing that the thing that Dream was mostly complaining about, I saw in the chat before, was, well, Reggie didn't make it so a translation of Mother 3 happened, so bad. And it's like, no.
Yeah. Well, it's more than that. Like, he would make jokes about doing it.
Yeah.
Which I get is kind of in poor taste, but also
Yeah.
Suffer further, Earthbound fans.
Yeah. And then, like, even outside of, like, I don't know. I know certain people were, like, kind of, like, whatever. But the vast majority of people, like reasonable people, are kind of, sad to see this really friendly figurehead go to
Yeah, what I think is, like, because, like, there's been a lot of evidence that Reggie doesn't really play, like, video games as much as, like, you would think, a president of a video game company would. Like, he's like, surprisingly not really into that, and people might say, oh, man, I don't want the president of Nintendo to be kind of like this like, weird businessman suit guy. But at the same time, like, he was a great meme lord. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And to be, like... I get that there's some localization stuff that he's responsible for, but I'm pretty sure mostly he just takes the stuff that Nintendo does and moves it to America, and that's about it. He doesn't actually have that much jurisdiction over the thing, so I think being such a prominent, like, public figure is really the primary job of the Nintendo of America president. And he did, like, an excellent job at that.
100%. Like that, as well as, like, leading, like, a lot of American marketing stuff. I'm sure that he has a large part in that as well. But the thing is that, like, outside of that, like, the fact that with pretty much every E3, like, around, like, during the stuff with during the Wii U, like, time period, when during all the E3 presentations and stuff, it was always Iwata, Miyamoto, and Reggie, and those were, like, the three, like, people that were, like, the representation of Nintendo. And that's not, and, like, normally if you're expecting that, it's like, oh, Nintendo's coming to E3, Reggie will be there to present some stuff, but then on, like, their big trailers or videos or whatever, they'll just have Iwata or whoever else, or Aonuma, doing everything. But no, like, Reggie was, like, known worldwide, despite only being the president of, like, America.
Yeah, and, like, in all of the directs and stuff, he was the guy who, like, decided to film it all and, like, introduce all the games and, especially, I especially love it because, like, that meant that since, as much as most people only really focus on the big stuff, a lot of Nintendo directs are, like, weird indie games or, like, weirder projects and stuff. And so I like the fact that he in a way, he kind of took some of his time, out of his day to focus on that stuff.
And I mean, along with that, like, he completely acknowledged, like, all of, like, the in-jokes of the community and just completely embraced them, Like, like, from everything from My Body Is Ready to, like, the Reginator thing they did, and, all that. I don't think he ever... I don't think he actually acknowledged that's all the time I've got, but now I've got to get back to playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on my Nintendo 3DS, but I mean, he is the one that is that. He's, I don't know.
That's why he retired, you guys.
Oh! Yeah, he ran out of time.
He's got to go back to playing Animal Crossing. But yeah, regardless, like, here's, because I guess, I don't know, like, necessarily the right way to say this, but, like, regardless of how you feel about Reggie, although I feel like the majority of public perception was pretty positive of him, regardless of how you feel, him, like, stepping down is definitely the end of an era for American, like, Nintendo stuff.
Yeah. Well, like, the thing is, I get why people don't like him, because, again, he's kind of a business suit kind of guy, and then again, a lot of those kinds of, like, people, a lot of people attribute, because I know Dream went on about this, and I kind of agree with him. I don't think I agree with him here, but, like, a lot of times there's a lot of really old blood and stuff that has a lot of control over like the big gaming companies and places, and they always like kick out new ideas and new developers that try to get in and like tend to make things kind of blah, you know. So I get why some people might have a sour taste in their mouth because of that, but I don't know. I think he was a nice guy. And again, I don't think he had nearly as much power over that kind of stuff as people think.
Yeah, all I was gonna say in response to that is like, I mean, I can agree the whole thing of like there's a lot of old blood in like these video game things, and people like new people oftentimes don't get their time to shine as often as or as nearly as much as they should. But you got to remember, it's not Reggie who's making the games. It's Nintendo of Japan that's like
John Reggie himself.
It's Nintendo of Japan that's having that problem. That's not. I mean, yeah, people complain about Miyamoto like being around for so long that he starts contaminating his own ideas and stuff like that. But that's not Nintendo of America. That's Nintendo of Japan. So I don't think that argument really applies to Reggie. That's the thing, because it's not. It's different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I will agree I will agree in terms of like the actual like game making and that stuff. Like, yeah, a lot of the old blood stuff, like we need to see some new faces, I feel, to really freshen some things up. But when it comes to like Reggie and his position, I don't think that's really the circumstance, or that was the circumstance at all. And oh, here we go, some more sirens outside. But
oh boy.
You know, that maybe
man, are the sirens after Nagito Library again?
Oh man.
They caught us after we stole all that Mondo butter.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I hate this.
Speaking of you, Sylvia, how do you feel about Reggie?
I have a thing where I tend to not like realize the impact of something until after it has happened, and that was a kind of situation with me and Reg, where I didn't really think about the small impact that he's had on my life, and I'm sad to see him go, but I have high hopes for Mr. Bowser.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's all I really have.
Yeah, I know everyone's pointed it out already, but during like Doug Bowser's like video where he's like, "Oh yes, I'm happy to like fulfill this position," all that, he's like doing his like little entrance speech or whatever. In the background, there's like a Mario and Luigi plush that are tied up by like a wire in the back, and it's it's real funny.
Bowser's already won.
Yeah, no. The thing is that you can tell just from that, you know he's gonna be playing fully into it. Like,
because like originally I was really worried that like, oh man, we're not gonna get like our meme guy. Like that was the whole point of the President of America.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean President of Nintendo of America.
Nowadays, but
but like hearing that like you followed his Twitter and he can be a funny meme man, that gives me hope.
Yeah, there's that plus like the little thing with like the plush. I have high hopes for Doug Bowser, and like I have a funny feeling he's gonna definitely be playing all in on the fact that his last name is Bowser. Like,
yeah.
Man, I can't wait for the next Nintendo president, Johnny Sands.
I hate. Eventually, my words of "I hate this" and "I hate that" will lose meaning.
Have they not already?
They are genuine.
I collect them, Sylvia. Whenever you say it, I save this moment in a bank in my memory.
Pocket. I see.
Yeah.
I see.
I store it for later in case I need one to pick me up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. I don't know if I should mention it, but again, one time I was just like sitting in one of my classes, bored or whatever, and someone's like, "Hey, what you thinking about?" And I just say, "How to emotionally torment one of my friends." And I was referring to Sylvia.
Yeah.
These are the people who I hang out with out of my own free will.
Mm-hmm.
I know, Sylvia. It makes me so hopeful.
Yeah.
But it brought a lot of despair to a lot of other people.
What brought a
Melee isn't an Evo.
Oh man. Oh jeez.
Wonder Knights.
Yeah. So moving swiftly on from the Reggie scenario, we'll get right into this, I guess. Evo's main lineup of games was announced, and most of it's what you expect. You got your Dragon Ball, you got Street Fighter V, you got Tekken. Pretty much what you're expecting is there, except for the fact that Melee is no longer there, and instead, it's just Smash Ultimate, and then kind of out of the blue, Under Night In-Birth EXE Latest is one of the main games on like the main stage of Evo, as opposed to just a side tournament. So I'm pretty sure it's been a side tournament there for years, but like...
But like, for me, this makes me so happy because one, even before I played the game, like I've just loved the characters and like the giant shitposty community that's behind Under Night. So like I've been like a fan of it for a long time, and I've all to play the game, and I really love it, you know. And it's just, I don't know, like I've been reading a lot about people's reactions, and like, you know, Under Night is this like, it's apparently really, really well liked and considered like the Street Fighter of anime games and anime fighters. And it's like the archetypical, you know, yeah, you've got like Dragon Ball, which has got weird stuff, and Blaze Blue that has combos that like go on for forever. But this is like this is like the core of an anime fighting game, and like it's got a really close following, a really weird following.
Oh yeah,
too.
100%. Yeah, it's a lot more. I've said this over and over again when talking with you guys, but comparatively to other like fighting games, anime fighters or not, it's a much more grounded game, similar to something like Street Fighter, where like sure there are crazy combo stuff sometimes, and you'll have like big blow up moments, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of that, and they still do have some anime fighter bullshit in there, but at the same time, comparatively to other games, it's much less a Marvel versus Capcom than it is a Street Fighter, and it's a whole lot more about fundamentals and neutral than other games may be.
Despite the fact that they do what I love, what like instantly attracts me to games, where all of the characters are really crazy and really different in some way. You know, like there's Gordeau, who's like, oh yeah, my normals are almost full screen, and then you've got Merkava, who's a bird, and then you've got like, you know, just all of this crazy shit, you know?
Yeah.
That I love. And like, I don't know, like, you know, Under Night and Birth is kind of like this really small niche game, and I'm just so glad that it's getting attention that I believe it deserves.
Yeah.
And I feel like this could be like a game that like lasts for a while and a lot of people get attached to.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I mean, I totally agree with Under Night stuff. I mean, since the announcement, we've all like finally like gotten gotten the game, and we started playing it. And I mean, I'm sure we could talk about that a little bit. I guess now or later. But Under Night's real fun.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
But like I think the main reason why it's such a blow up, other than the fact that like it is EVO, which is, you know, biggest fighting game tournament, is the fact that it really isn't, but Melee isn't there, so people are like, Under Night replaced Melee, and people are really upset about it.
Well, that's because Under Night was the last announcement, and people expected Melee to be the announcement, so they take that as Under Night replaced Melee. But really, a lot of games replaced Melee.
Yeah,
you know,
like Smash Ultimate, like Smash Ultimate.
Yeah, that probably took it.
Yeah, because like the whole thing is like. There's I mean, we don't need to go into a full rant, because I think we've talked about like the Melee community in terms of Smash stuff before, and like I think we've talked about that on the podcast, but like
they smell bad.
Yeah, Melee has a very interesting community that is both part and also its own beast comparative to the rest of the Smash community. And it's like this weird thing where I know it's like they even did like a whole homage to Melee thing. That means it should just be in the thing. And it's like, no, it's just sort of celebrating the fact that it's been there, you know, sort of like how they did with Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which was there for like how many years?
Yeah, like 10. And Melee was there for I think 7.
Yeah.
So like it was there for a comparative amount of time. And like the thing that like upsets me is like, you know, a lot of Melee fans are like, oh, now that Melee isn't in here, who would ever watch EVO? This was the only reason anyone watched this. And I'm like, first of all,
no.
Dragon Ball FighterZ got more views than you last year. Second of all, there's, you know, like the entire fighting game community isn't just people that play Melee, you know, there's like a lot of other games that people are interested in, you know, and I think that, especially since, as I understand it, Melee was originally one of those kind of weird fringe games that was given an opportunity by EVO, and it ended up blowing up into this big thing. And, you know, I personally think that Melee can survive on its own without EVO, and they should pay it forward to a game like Under Night that's kind of gotten shafted.
Yeah, the thing is, when it comes to, like, the whole Melee thing, like, the way it got in originally was through that, like, donation drive, where the whole thing was, at the time, like, the two big sides of the Smash community were Melee and Brawl, and they're like, hey, if we all join together to back one of these two games, we can get a Smash Brothers game into EVO. So the community was like, all right, let's get Melee in there. And so whether like the Brawl community, Melee community, they all went together and got Melee into EVO, and it was this whole like great dream success story, and it happened. And now that it's leaving, everyone's like, ugh, you know, like,
yeah.
it's
Not-
I don't know. I mean, it could just be my bias towards like, hey, let's let Melee like cool off a little bit. Where it's survived for like how many years now? Like 18. If people are really gonna keep playing it competitively, it'll keep living on until like the diehard fan base eventually peters out. Which I'm surprised it hasn't already with the current metagame. But like,
yeah, and like I've heard, like I think because like I know a lot of people make fun of Melee players, but like I don't keep up with it much, so the only thing I've like seen of like specific Melee players, other than seeing like people on Twitch who were like angry and like seething when it wasn't in there, like going on and complaining on Twitter like live. Other than that, the only thing I've seen was like one guy like talking about how like the rest of the fighting game community just doesn't understand what good mechanics are, and that's why they all don't want Melee and Evo or whatever. Which is like, I don't know. I just think like, everyone should just be chill. And again, it's not like Melee is going anywhere, so.
Yeah. As much as I would expect it to have gone somewhere already, the fact that it's still around is a testament to how much people love it. So,
it'll stay.
It'll stay around. It just won't be at Evo.
And you were gonna say something, Sylv?
Not really. Sorry.
Duh.
All right. Well, I think we've covered like the main thing with that. So, do we want to like real quickly get into like Undernight and our experiences with that, or do we want to just move on?
Oh yeah. Oh wait. Ooh, one other thing. There's this other game it's kind of like BB tagging, which it was a game that wasn't even out when it was announced. What is it? Samurai Showdown.
Yeah.
Samurai Showdown.
Yeah, Samurai Showdown.
Which is apparently a reboot. It's like a
Samurai
reboot thing of a really old fighting game.
Yeah, Samurai Sam Show.
Lot.
Sam Show is like a real old SNK franchise, who are the same company that make King of Fighters. And so they there hasn't been a Sam Show game in I don't even know how long.
I think there was only one.
No, there was definitely more than one. There was like there's at least 4 of them, I know. But like the thing is,
I heard that like there weren't any since like the 3D era of games.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. There were a lot of them, but they were all jam-packed like in a certain time period. And since that time period, there really hasn't been anything. So, I mean, it is kind of like a niche, like kind of a deal where it's, hey, if you know Samurai Showdown from the old days of fighting games, then you're really gonna like this. But I feel like it definitely deserves its spot, like to be tested out in the same way that BB Tag was. So calm down, people. It's a classic fighting game franchise. Let it. And I don't think SNK has had. I don't think King of Fighters is in the Evo main lineup this year, or if it ever has been. I honestly don't remember. So
I think it might have been in, but not in a long time.
Yeah. So point is, let SNK have its one franchise in there and see how this game turns out.
And besides, as I kind of understand, like from obviously I haven't played the game, so I don't know a lot. But like Samurai Showdown apparently has a bunch of like weird mechanics, like you have like crazy high damage combos, and it's like you can like disarm people from their weapons, and they have to fight barehanded until they get their weapons back.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's the main thing I remember from playing Sam Show, because like I've played it in a couple arcade cabinets before. I like when I was younger. It hasn't been like I haven't played it in years. But the main thing I remember from it is the fact that you can like knock people's weapons off them. That's like the big thing in it.
Yeah.
At least from what I remember. But I mean,
but yeah.
Yeah. Sam Show.
But I just wanted to say that exists.
Oh yeah. No, it's important to mention Sam Show. I feel like it needs more recognition if people don't know of it already.
Yeah. But going back to what you were saying before, we did play Undernight. So what do y'all think of it?
I didn't know I needed it.
I have the usual I don't know which character to play because I'm an indecisive fricko, but it's just fun. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I've been liking it. My one issue is the fact that in comparison to BB Tag, the commands are a lot tighter. Like I checked, and it's specifically the diagonals I don't know, it might be a frame rate issue, but I feel like whenever I try to do the quarter circles, I check on the button input and it just skips over the diagonals. And then sometimes when I try to block low, it's like real finicky and stuff like that. But those are just like control issues, and hopefully I'll get over them because, you know, Gordo is a character that, like, he's easy to play, but that happens to be the thing that, like, you use a lot because the specials are all so good. And, you know, I gotta play my Reap Man, like, I just gotta.
Mhm.
So, yeah. And this also means, because Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle is still in Evo, and the new patch that, like, nerfs Gordo to shit, by the way, that happened.
Mhm.
Sorry, rip Gordo. But the nerf that the patch that nerfs Gordo to shit in BB Tag, I don't think that's gonna be out until I don't know when Evo is, but it's taking forever to come out here, so that might be after Evo. Which means we might have Gordo in 2 top tier tournaments at Evo.
I would love it, honestly.
I would hate it personally.
Oh, actually, that reminds me. Since we are mentioning BB Tag, I don't think by the time that we had the last podcast that.
Oh no, yeah, we didn't.
Yeah.
We didn't.
Yeah, so BB Tag announced the start of its next season, I guess.
Yeah.
So we have Teddy in the game. Finally, we have Seth from Under Night. We have Naoto from Blaze Blue.
Yeah, Naoto Kurogane.
Yeah, Kurogane. And then the new Fate is Arcana Hearts and Heart, the main characters in it now.
Yeah, and there's also a 6th Fate, which is Cyan.
So we're not quite sure what that is yet, but we know it's a thing.
Yeah. It's, I will say, Teddy looks interesting. I know for a fact, like, literally when he was announced, all of the Evo semifinalists, I think, they all got together in a ring, got a Teddy plush, and then just, like, spun in a circle while flipping the bird at it and recorded that and put it on Twitter.
Oh yeah, no, that's the thing. That's the thing.
Okay.
I love Teddy as a character in P4. A lot of people hate him. And very similarly, I love playing him in Persona 4 Arena, but he's also really stupid, and people really hate him there because he is ridiculous.
Yeah, we'll see. Again, with the new patch, Persona characters are getting buffed in general, so that means good news for him.
Yeah, and I mean, if it hasn't been obvious enough from every time we've talked about BB Tag in here, I've been waiting for this boy to be added since day one, so.
Yeah. And then, the thing with Naoto Kurogane is, first of all, Naoto Shirogane, who's the Persona character, Shiro means light, and then Kuro means dark. So we have Naoto Blanco and Naoto Negro now.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, that's important. And his whole thing was the fact that he was, like, crazy, like, technical, like, with, like, weird things where, like, when you, like, a bunch of, like, frame-specific micro-dash canceling, like, super bullshit, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But hopefully, he should, I'm hoping that he will be toned down into a more manageable character, since BB Tag is very beginner-friendly, you know?
Yeah. And
then,
it should be interesting.
Seth.
Yeah, Seth.
He has such an edgelord voice.
Edge boy.
Edge boy.
Yeah, he got Orb.
I fought him once in Under Night ranked mode, and I didn't know what was happening.
I did too, and I knew what was happening. The thing that I didn't do was get to attack or move.
He just like T-poses while flash stepping everywhere, and you die.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, Seth in Under Night is actually, like, people consider him, like, in the top tier 4, because, like, with Under Night's tier list, it's like there's 4 characters that people generally put as, like, at the top, and then it's everyone else in mid tier, and then bottom tier is Enkidu. My poor boy. He's got a great theme though. But that's besides the point. They also have again, Heart from Arcana Hearts, and I did some research into what Arcana Hearts, like, bullshit is. And so apparently, like, the whole thing with the original system that sadly they can't do in this game, so some people are upset. But the whole thing was that you have a character and they have a move set, and they all have weird aerial stuff. Like, they all like dash through the air, and like the screen size is way larger than most games, and you're basically always doing crazy aerial bullshit. But mainly, the whole thing is that in addition to selecting your character, you select an arcana. And like some characters are like paired with their arcana, so it's like, oh, they're aesthetically the same, and like in story they have the same thing. But you can mix and match them. So for example, one basically has like Tager style magnetism, so you can fit that stuff from someone's kit onto anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
1 sec.
Oh boy.
But yeah, you can do stuff like that. And so sadly that's not in this, but you know, he's still. It still seems like it'll be fun. I can't wait to see what they get.
I'm kind of curious. I know really nothing outside of what has been just said about I don't know much about Arcana Heart, so it'll be interesting to see like what comes out of it, and if it'll get me to care about a franchise like BB Tag did for Under Night.
Oh yeah, it's a real obscure franchise, and the thing is, they actually redid the sprites, which is like the only returning franchise they've done that for. So some people are paranoid enough where they wait, if they're doing this, and that means they might actually make another Arcana Hearts game because it's been forever since the last one. So, I guess if you like that game, that's good. Oh, and also Sylvia.
Yeah.
It's got cute girls in it.
Yeah, you might like that. Also, because we got to keep the meme going alive. I honestly don't remember if it was a thing in the last episode, but more Dragon Ball FighterZ news.
Oh, it was. Yeah, I think we briefly talked about Jiren and Videl being a thing.
Yeah. But yeah, so Jiren and Videl are now out. Both fun. Videl's crazy. Jiren somehow is less crazy, but whatever. They're both good. However, recently it has been announced that Kid Goku, but not Dragon Ball Kid Goku, Dragon Ball GT Kid Goku is going to be the next DLC fighter, which has got a lot of people upset for multiple reasons. Because for one, it's another Goku. For two, it's GT.
Yeah. And three, the super, there's a big super that turns him into, like, his ultimate super is, Kid Goku Super Saiyan 3, not Super Saiyan 4, which is, like, the whole thing that GT introduced.
Apparently they've stated that there's a secret other extra level 3, which might be the Super Saiyan 4 thing. But we have no idea, and, I forget if there's been an actual release date for Goku GT announced yet, but he has like power pole for like ki blast kind of stuff, so he can have like extended range.
Grim Reaper.
Yeah, I mean he'll have range that other small characters don't have normally. He has reverse kamehamehas where he sends himself flying into you. One of his supers is the super ultra spirit bomb. So that's interesting. I guess it's another spirit bomb. But you know, it's another Goku. But you know, he's a small boy.
Yeah, and now isn't it like I've heard that you can no longer fit all the Gokus on two teams to fight each other? You can't have if you have a game where it's nothing but Gokus, there is now Gokus that cannot be put in there.
Yeah, probably.
There's just too many.
I mean, just thinking about it, yeah, because we've got Goku, Super Saiyan we got base Goku, Super Saiyan Goku. Goku Blue, Goku Black, Kid Goku, Vegito technically. There's gonna be Gogeta. Then how am I forgetting? There's other Goku. Well, Zamasu is part Goku, technically.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking I'm trying to remember. Cell is part Goku.
That's a stretch.
That's a stretch, but I mean he is part Goku. Bardock is Goku's dad and looks like Goku. I mean there's two versions of Gohan who's Goku's son, and then there's Gotenks who's one half Goku's son.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Goku in that game.
Yeah, Goku's just everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, it's me, Goku. I'm God.
I am God.
Yeah. Oh, right. Sylvia played Dragon Ball FighterZ for the first time recently.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what'd you think, Sylv?
I like Unist better, but it was a fine game.
But were you
I
confident in your speed?
I'm quite
I
confident
was
in my
decently
speed.
confident in my speed, you know.
But did you think a barrier would work?
I'm not that stupid.
For
Anyway.
context, Sylvia likes playing Cell.
Mm-hmm.
And those are two of his lines.
Those are the
He
lines.
says a lot.
Mm-hmm. He says a lot. Cell has some really good lines in there.
Yeah, he's a fun time.
Yes, you here shall be destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's all of our fighting game nonsense we wanted to get out of the way, though.
Yeah, we're free with
I
that.
guess one quick thing about Orie, she has a stand.
Oh yeah, she does.
That's it. That's all I want to say. I'll shut.
Orie got a stand, and it's what is it? 2-2 C is crazy, stupid, broken.
She got a real stupid super.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where imagine a ball, but it's half of the screen and deals an insane amount of damage.
And spawns on top of you, and she can move like immediately after putting it out while you're
Yeah, that
still
too.
in hit stun.
That little bit too.
It's big. It's dummy thick, one might say.
Yeah, one might say that.
Indeed.
Anyway.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So if we're moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, that's all about the Orie.
Unless Austin wants to come up with another stupid transition.
Oh, hold on. What's the next topic? Let me look at the list. So we all know that we all know that
Oh, God.
that there are a lot of fighting games out there. We mentioned, a lot of them, and there's Smash Brothers, but there's also another one that's like with a Nintendo property, but like not technically like made by Nintendo. It's like Namco. It's kind of based off Tekken. It's called Pokken. Well, I don't know if you knew this, but Pokken's based off this one wacky little series called Pokemon, which is having its new generation come out on Nintendo Switch. Pokemon Sword and Shield, baby.
Yeah. Oh, is it on? Oh, yeah, it is on Switch. Right. Yeah. So it's finally going on to a Sword home console for a main series thing.
Yep. I mean, it is basically.
Yeah. That's gonna be cool. It's weird that first of all, it's based off the new generation the location is based off England.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, it's Sword and Shield, which is a real weird. First of all, it's kind of a weird combination since for the longest time we had gemstones, and then we had color, and it's like, most of the time they use the gemstones for a color theme, so this makes sense. Then they had Sun
X
and Moon.
and
Well,
Y.
they
X
had
and Y.
They had letters.
And they had letters, and I'm like, oh, that's a little weird. Sun and Moon. And now they don't care anymore.
Yeah.
They stopped.
Any two things that are usually paired together and can be considered opposites can now be Pokemon games, which I guess is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and it's looking weird. Although I don't I like you all know that Sword is selling way more than Shield is because all of the kids would rather have Sword.
Yeah. Isn't there that one anime that's like come out recently that's like the story of a Shield hero where the entire premise is basically about how like no one wants to play tanks and everyone wants to play DPS, and so this one dude is the one tank, and so everyone relies on him but no one gives him the credit he deserves. Isn't that like the whole like premise of the show?
That might be I thought the plot was like a revenge story for something.
Well, I have no idea. I just know it's a show.
I wouldn't know. I mean, the only anime I've watched lately is JoJo, and you guys all made me watch The Promised Neverland.
Yeah.
And also a bit of Hunter x Hunter, I guess.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, I already watched that. So,
You're his point.
we're just forcing you to watch it, Sylvia.
When do you think will be the inevitable episode of Game Library where the entire first half of it is talking about anime? When do you think that's happening?
Oh god, it'll happen eventually.
Yeah.
But probably. Well, first we'll have to have a few times where we don't have month-long delays. That might help.
That might help. A bit.
But we'll see. We'll see. Who knows? But yeah. Oh, what do people generally think about like the Pokemon franchise in general? Because I know, like, as popular and like widespread of a property it is, I think people, especially people who play video games a lot, not gamers, I don't want to say the G word, but people tend to have divisive thoughts on it. So what do y'all think?
I mean, Pokemon was like one of my first the first video game franchise I got like into as a little baby, and like I love it from the bottom of my heart. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit sick of it. In the sense that like after like because Sun and Moon came out, I'm like, wow, these are cool, and I was done. And it's like, here's Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, the game that you should have released last year. Okay.
No, but we really wanted to have a game out.
Yeah. And then it's like, okay, how about no thank you. Here's Pokemon Let's Go. Remember Pokemon Go? It's that, but now it's on the Switch and we're making Kenso again. And now Sword and Shield are coming out. I mean, I'm excited to see what happens, and maybe it'll be like that thing where, like, when X and Y came out, like, before that I was having a very similar kind of, I'm sick of Pokemon kind of phase, and then X and Y came out, and even though looking back, X and Y aren't, like, the most finely crafted Pokemon games at the time, it was enough to be like, I'm now super back into Pokemon.
Yeah.
Maybe Sword and Shield will do that again. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Maybe Sword and Shield will do that again, but I don't know.
I don't know. I'm pessimistic. Although I will say, like, one thing that, like, especially annoys me with Pokemon a lot is, it's so hand-holdy, and it often, like, it both spends a long time explaining very basic details and conventions of the system that don't need to be explained, but also ignores a lot of, like, the really deep, like, aspects of the game that make it so competitively interesting for a lot of people, although not me. And so it ends up creating what I think just personally, I don't like the Pokemon games, even though I did grow up with them and I was super invested in them for a while. I'm just like, no, like, I don't know. Maybe it's the hand-holding or the fact that they, like, rarely ever do anything new. Like, the most that new they did is, like, oh, instead of having 8 emulators, we have, like, 4 now in Sun and Moon, or, you know. So, I don't know. I'm like, I've always been, I just want them to do something where they take everything that they've built up over the years and all of the systems, and they do something really complicated and interesting with those systems.
Yeah, I think,
like,
yeah. I think we've mentioned it before, but like we were talking about, like, it'd be super cool if Pokemon Let's Go was like, here's your casual Pokemon game for those people that play it casually. And then Sword and Shield was suddenly, here's the game for people that, like, know and love Pokemon for its gameplay. And so we're not gonna baby you. But we know that's not gonna happen, so.
Yeah, because they even specifically said this will appeal returning players and accommodate incoming new players alike. So, which basically just means it's gonna
be the same as it's always been.
For the children.
For the children?
Yeah.
Come on, for the children.
At least so I believe.
But
I would be happy to. I would happy to be proven wrong.
Mr.
I would
Zanza.
be happy to be proven wrong.
Mr. Zanza, Miss Sylvia, but if little Timmy can't beat all the Pokemon games without even trying, then how am I gonna?
He can suck it.
How am I gonna buy all my Pikachu plushies and watch the show and get all the cards and get all the spin-offs and do everything else?
Little Timmy, it's called pain.
Oh man, I don't know what that is.
Oh, you will, but
It's a very ominous quote.
Oh, you will. Bone cracking sounds.
No, I mean, I was trying to do the reference of, sir. You know, he's like, point that camera away from my face.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah.
Yeah. But aren't you magnetically attracted towards the camera?
Yeah, why are you? If you hate the camera so much, why are you walking towards
the camera? I love that video so much.
You're breaking the camera.
You're breaking the camera.
You're scaring poor sweet camera coon.
Hey, Sylvia, how do you feel about Pokemon?
I'm in the same boat where it's like, I really like it, but I want it to be more complex. I think that the generations of 1 through 5-ish do a good job. 5-4 do a good job of, like, being decently challenging, but also good. But then 6 and 7, 6 and 7 I'm iffy on. but that might just be a
Yeah.
personal problem.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Sun and Moon did a whole lot right in certain regards. Like I said it before, it's the first Pokemon game, with the exception of some characters like N, where I actually like care about the characters in a Pokemon game, sort of. But that might be just because Guzma and Gladion are like hilarious, and I love the both of them because Gladion.
Typically you.
Yeah, they're archetypically me characters, so it might just be because those two exist, and then whatever.
Yeah.
But
Personally, I like how, like, because, like, the whole thing is they tried to make Team Plasma, like, a morally complicated kind of thing, and then everyone was like, "Meh." And so they're like, okay, I guess people don't like that. Let's make, we're fanciful and we want to make the world beautiful with Team Flare. And then people didn't like that because it was too simple. So I love the whole thing where Team Skull is just a bunch of, like, random teenagers who have very bad self-esteem issues, who are just running around in a gang dancing and shit.
I forget what the one line is, but there's, like, the one line where it's like in the berry farm, and there's like the Team Skull member, and there's like some dude I think fending him off with like a Pokemon, and it's like stand back or this guy will get sick on you, and I forget what he says, but he says something along the lines of like, man, you think my self-esteem could get any lower than this? And it's like, oh jeez, oh man. And I've said this before too, I don't know if on the podcast, but easily my favorite line of dialogue in any Pokemon game is when you go into Gladion's house and his only thing he says is get out. That's all he says. Every time you talk to him, he just stands in the center of his room. Get out. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they actually had character instead of just being, this is, standard copy-paste professor. This, you know.
This is John Team Flare, and he wants to destroy the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he likes,
money.
Or he wants to just fight him, please.
Can I tell a quick spoilerino about where Team Skull goes at the end of Sun and Moon?
I mean, sure.
Sure, go ahead. It's kind of an old game at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think at some point in the post game, Guzma disbands Team Skull and goes back to his parents' house.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he
I love that.
His yeah, and like if you notice, I think he has like a skull thing on his shirt or whatever, and he like X's it out after that.
Aww.
Because he's done with the crime life. And one thing, this is a little bit separate, but because I really like Pokemon Gen 5. Oh, well, I have mixed feelings. Again, I still think that the Gen 2 remakes are the best Pokemon games. That might be nostalgia talking.
A lot of people think that, though. That's the thing. Like, I don't think that's a very, like, unpopular opinion.
Yeah. But, like, I think one of my favorite villains is still Getsus, just because he's just evil. Like, not even in, like, sort of, like, the hammy or, like, the, you know, I guess you're evil for a kid's show. No, he's just fucked.
No,
like,
he wants to kill you.
Yeah. Do you... I guess we technically said Sun and Moon spoilers, so I guess I can say Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon spoilers.
Yeah.
But, so, they form... There's, like, Team Rainbow Rocket that has, like, all of the leaders of all the previous games things there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole thing is that when Getsus happens, like, all of the other villains are just like, oh yeah, we're following this guy. But Getsus' whole thing is, yes, if I can do this, then I can manipulate Giovanni and then, like, kill him and take over the place or whatever. And then when you beat him, he actually, like, threatens you physically, and someone else has to beat him up. Like, he literally, who's it, Lily or something?
Yeah, Lily? Or,
Yeah, like, literally punches her in the face or like that, or like pushes her over. Like, he's like an actual villain. He's not a Saturday morning cartoon guy.
Yeah, he just wants to freeze the world.
Yeah, he's just like, I am God. You know, he's just great.
Mm-hmm. He just wants
No
to
wonder you relate to him. He's God.
Turn it into a wonderful winter wonderland.
Yeah. Also, so do we want to talk about, like, our favorite Pokemon or whatever?
Well, favorite Pokemon, like game Pokemon as in the creature, or favorite starter for Sword and Shield?
I was thinking I was thinking creature, although we can do starter for Sword and Shield too.
Alright.
Although we all know yours.
Too big of a list for just like general favorite Poke. Too many. All maybe.
List a bunch of them you like then.
Most of the legendaries. There's Giratina, especially for reasons that I went over a while ago. The beta design for the like, I forget exactly.
Beta Remoraid?
No, beta Mr. Mime for his own special reasons.
Mr. Mame.
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
there's also Fortress Pokemon that has gun.
Yeah.
And other Pokemon that's a bug type, I think, that has gun.
Hey,
I think it starts with a G. Anyway.
Hey, Sylvia. Yeah, Genesect. Hey Sylvia,
Yes.
are you forgetting a certain one?
Stacatic.
I want you to look really hard.
Sylvia!
Listen, I never said I was the smartest, okay?
The smartest cookie in the nut.
And also, what if I said I preferred Umbreon?
I mean, okay, but...
Oh, fuck.
Okay, Sylveon, but what's the one we're talking about so the audience can know?
Cough, cough.
You said Sylveon instead of Sylvia. I think you gave it away.
I thought, as I said Sylvia, but maybe I slipped.
No,
you said
decently sure you
Sylveon.
slipped.
Okay.
No, yeah, alright.
Well,
fun.
Yeah.
Neat.
Uh-huh.
Anyway.
What about yours, Austin?
I like Ghosts. Sableye's the best.
I know. Orlando Sableye.
Uh-huh. Sableye's my favorite. So Sceptile's
You
up
like
there.
funny.
Yeah, Sceptile's up there. I don't know why. I have a real soft spot for Skitty. I don't get it, but I really like Skitty.
Oh no,
I mean,
I
Skitty's
same here.
Cute.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was literally like when I was Bab, I'm like, I like cats. What's the cat Pokemon? And then I saw that, and I somehow forgot Meowth was a cat Pokemon. I'm like, oh, Skitty, good cat, good
Yeah.
Pokemon.
I like Skitty a lot. I have a lot of like weird favorites where like I like Wailord a lot because he's big and he's a stupid whale. I like Hippowdon because he's a
also
big dumb
floats.
hippo.
He doesn't float.
Yeah, I love Hawlucha, just wrestler bird.
Floats technically.
Yeah, and I mean there's Pikachu. I've always loved Pikachu.
Pikachu doesn't do anything.
Pika.
Pikachu warms my heart. That's what Pikachu does.
He does.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big worm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Alright, how about you?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Well, like, my favorite is probably Zora, just because, so, like, imagine this, there's me, I'm a big stupid, I don't actually have much access, you know, like, I'm a kid, although I guess those things would still apply now, but, you know, I was small child, I could barely read, you know, I'm, like, Pokemon's a thing, I'm like, oh, I love all these Pokemon. But maybe it's because I was stupid or whatever, but like I wasn't as I understood it, like when I was into Pokemon, like all of Gen 4 had been out for like years or whatever, or like I got into it and then it was out for years. So I had liked Pokemon for a long time, and Pokemon does this thing where they take one of them from like the next generation and they do like a preview kind of thing with it, and they show it off, and then they go over like the starters and all the other stuff in the next gen. And they did that with Zoroark. So Zoroark is the first new Pokemon that I saw, and he's got like all these illusion power, you know, like, you know, and I don't know, I also like how I'm like one of the only people that really loves Zoroark and isn't a fetishist, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I really like Zoroark, and I know there are people that do, but then you answered the second half of my statement.
Yeah, I am in the exact same boat.
I like, I love Chandelure and Ferrothorn.
Chandelure is wonderful.
Ghost.
He's Litwick's adorable. Again, I like Beta Remoraid because he's like, right now it's kind of weird. He just kind of looks like a fish. This beta design is just a pistol with like a stupid face on it, and I love that.
Yeah.
And then of course, you know, Arceus is my aesthetic. As cliched as people are like, oh, Pokemon Arceus, you know. And then I like Volcarona. And I have a really weird soft spot for Bisharp for some reason.
Bisharp's cool. So is Volcarona.
Yeah. I don't know. It was like the first time where like I bought like one of those like strategy books, and like I was flipping through and I randomly found Bisharp, and I'm like, oh, what is this guy? What's his guillotine move or whatever it was? It's like insta kill move, and it was the first time I knew that that was a thing that existed, and I freaked out.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of real cool Pokemon and stuff out there.
Yeah, but you know, it just blew my bad mind. Now it's like, oh yeah, a lot of Pokemon have insta kill moves and I'm good, but.
Bisharp is no longer special.
Yeah, well, he still kept that special quality in my mind.
I remember similarly, because I know I mentioned Hippowdon earlier, but like in a very similar vein, Hippowdon learns Fissure, which is another like one-hit KO move, and like before me and my friends at the time like knew anything of how to be a person and look online and like research stuff, we were just like, whoa, this kills everything! And so Hippowdon was like the only Pokemon we knew that had it, and so we both just loved Hippowdon, like, and I mean I still do. He's still big dumb hippo, and I love him.
Yeah. And it's like, well, yeah, you know, like, technically, reasonably, it's not a thing. But just because, like, you know, you were a stupid child, and so it always holds a special place in your heart.
Yeah, I think Moto likes you.
Yeah.
Anyway, as for Sword and Shield starters, I mean, I'll go first because Monkey Gang, GrookeyGang. There we go.
Yeah, obviously.
Monkey. He's Monkey.
He's you, Austin.
Yeah. Realistically, I think I like Scorbunny's design the most, but Grookey's Monkey, so there, wins.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Grookey will evolve into an art student.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, man. Sylvia?
I guess that I like Bun the most, but I'm kind of iffy on all three of them.
Yeah.
So this 8-ball says ask again.
I see. Yeah, I don't know. I am kind of iffy on all of them, but that might be because again, I just got completely fatigued on Pokemon, and I still am fatigued, and I'm like, about the whole series. But I do think Scorbunny has the best design, but he's also like almost guaranteed to be a firefighting. So I have like that's just an instant no for me, fam.
Yeah.
And then. Sorry, Austin, but I think Grookey looks weird.
Grookey does look weird, but he's Monkey, so he wins.
I know, Austin. I know.
I know he has a weird little like pear mouth, and like looks like a caveman, but I don't care. This is a monkey.
Because he's gonna evolve into.
Yeah.
But I guess in that case, by default, Sobble wins.
Yeah. Wow, we each have a different one as our favorite. How convenient.
Yeah, which makes sense because like water, just like generally, I like the water starters the best.
I genuinely like the grass ones the best. So.
And Sylvia says, "Ask again later."
Yeah, I guess.
But also Scorbunny, maybe.
Yeah. Well, do you think like the fire type starters are the ones you like the most? Not necessarily your favorite of the three.
No. Because like I didn't like Tepig. I didn't like Torchic until I grew a taste for Torchic, I suppose. I don't like Litten. There we go. That's the name.
Oh, Litten's a cute little cat.
Well,
yeah.
He and she do. They are very cute, but also involves in like.
Bah!
I don't like.
Bah!
I'm sorry, I don't.
Ah!
It evolves into the new Smash character.
I'm surprised no one.
I much prefer Owlboy from the hit game Owlboy.
I'm surprised no one mentions Chimchar anymore.
I love him.
I know you love him, Oz, because he's monkey. But it's weird because when I was a kid in your age, you know, but like. You know, Chimchar was like the favorite Pokemon of everyone.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird how like he and I feel like a lot of the Gen 4 starters have almost been forgotten.
Well, the times have changed, old man. So.
Oh no! Out with the old, in with the new.
Turtwig is still best, though. I love.
Don't you like Meltan? Don't you like Little Nut Boy?
Yeah. You know, it's weird. Let's look at like the preview Pokemon for the next generation that we've gotten. Like, there's
Meltan.
no. Like, we've gotten Lucario. I don't know what the one for
it was
Gen 3.
There was, I don't know about Gen 3, but I know for Gen 4 there was Lucario and Munchlax, both of them.
Yeah. Well, I feel like Lucario is the main one.
Yeah, he's the main one though.
Yeah, and then we got Zoroark, and then for what was it for Gen 6? I know there was one. Oh, Sylveon, duh.
Oh, right.
Cause it was like shown off before we knew what the type was, and it was like, ooh. And so it's weird that like, oh yeah, after all of those, what do we get next? He's a nut.
He's a nut boy, and he evolves in the bigger nut boy. And he's exclusive to Pokemon Go.
For now, anyway.
For now, yeah.
I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it was, but I'm pretty sure it was confirmed somewhere that he is a Sword and Shield Pokemon, and they just put him in Let's Go early.
Yeah, I'm sure. But, like, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really like Melmetal, though. I'll be honest. He just is there.
Because he's just a big gray blob with Meltan stuck on it.
Exactly. He's a big gray blob, and that's it. But, whatever.
Yeah. And, well, if that's all we have to say about that, then there's...
we got 2 quickies, don't we? We got a lightning round.
Yeah, we got 2 quickies. So, Devil May Cry 5 came out, and, let's just say I've been really itching to play the series because I haven't, because we're all of us here are babies. We're Zoomers and we don't know the real classics.
I've been wanting to play DMC5 so badly, but I've specifically been like, nope, I'm gonna play through all the other ones first, and then I'm getting it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm the same here, except with the remake, because I'm not doing the weird Devil May Cry remake thing.
Oh well, yeah. I'm not doing DMC Don't, but I'm Don't. I'm counting 1, 2, unfortunately, 3 and 4.
Why was too bad?
2 is well known to be like pretty bad, and the best thing that comes out of 2 is Dante's design is really good, but it doesn't ever come back. Because 1 is super weird because Devil May Cry 1 was originally Resident Evil 4 and it shows. So Devil May Cry 1 has a lot of like real interesting stuff. DMC 2 is apparently bad. I don't really know the exact reasonings as to why because I haven't played it and I haven't looked it up because I'm going to get into the series, but I know it's apparently usually considered pretty bad. Devil May Cry 3 is pretty much like everyone's favorite before 5. Because it's like the one where Dante, as how he is now, is sort of established. It's where Virgil, I think, it's where Virgil's like really a thing.
That's when they turn the ham levels.
Yeah, that's when that's exactly. They realize that nobody's taking it seriously, so let's just play it really hammy.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure at least one takes itself kind of jokey, but they still have like this veneer of a serious story
I've seen 1. It takes itself like really seriously. Like it's not there might be a joke in it if I remember correctly, but like
so we don't get Pizza Dante.
Pizza Dante is from 3. That's where it starts.
I see.
The opening scene to Devil May Cry. Yeah.
Devil May Cry fans, that must have been a whiplash thing when 3 first came out.
Oh yeah. When Devil May Cry 3's opening was like it's a perfect example of the direction the series went, and it's amazing. But then Devil May Cry 4 came out, and everyone always is like, "Wow, I love half of Devil May Cry 4 because the second half is just playing the game again." But yeah, because Devil May Cry 4 has a real... Yeah.
Oh, it's Nier Automata?
Yeah, and apparently most people are saying that 5 is now the new best one, so...
Yeah, I know, I don't know if it's Nero or V. They made one of them, like, their whole purpose is they're a giant Devil May Cry remake joke.
I would imagine that it's Nero because he looks kind of like Dante. Yeah, because...
And so, they just make fun of him for being like him a lot.
That'd be really funny. Because I know, like, V is, like, sophisticated edge boy who, like, summons his monsters to attack people. Dante's, like, the classic, you know, he's Michael Jackson cowboy man, and his whole, like, gimmick is that his combos are incredibly freeform, and their only limits are your imagination. And then Nero's, like, the standard.
Got, like, tons of weapons.
Yeah, and then Nero's, like, the standard one.
Well, no, Nero's whole thing is... Oh, right, Sekiro came out. We can talk about that later.
Yeah,
his whole thing is that he has a mechanical arm that you choose that, and that gives him a bunch of weird mechanics to play with.
Right.
I'm
pretty sure he's I'm pretty sure though he is like the standard way to play the game. Though.
Yeah. Well, I think not only that, but they specifically tried to recreate some of the Devil May Cry remake mechanics, but only as a joke. That's what I've heard. Don't trust me on that because again, I know nothing.
Yeah. I know that like Nero, like if you pre-ordered the game, I think, or maybe it's even DLC now, you can get like a Mega Buster arm for him. I know it's kind of funny. Yeah. And then I also know that like one of his things is that he can shoot out his robo arm and then ride it.
Nice.
Which is something that I would make for a character. So like
yeah.
So yeah, I'm really excited to play through the games at some point and get to 5.
And I like how personally, you know, I know a lot of people are like, oh, we want like really intelligent, mature cinematic experience. But like I like a big stupid game that's just all about the gameplay sometimes.
Oh yeah, and apparently though is that like the story stuff is actually it's like decently like interesting, and I mean it's a lot of fun character moments, which I personally, even if the story isn't the most complex, I feel like a series is really made or broken by its character interaction. So if you have funny stuff like that, you're gonna get me. So, like...
Yeah, I know.
Yeah?
I maybe not quite, like, that far, but yeah. I totally get that. Sylvia, what have you heard of the Devil May Cry franchise?
I know that 4 was... I think that 4 was considered pretty good. You may note my silence, that's because that's pretty much all I know about it.
Alright.
I know it's a beat-em-up game.
Kinda. It's like a really weird... It's like a combo-heavy action game.
It's like Bayonetta. But it did it before Bayonetta, so...
Yeah. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
That's what I meant to say. But, yeah, I don't have a great interest in the series at this point in my life, and maybe that's going to change when I play a game, but I'm not sure.
We shall see.
Indeed.
Indeed, I believe so.
And then we also have...
Never doubt it.
We also have Kingdom Hearts 3.
Bull off, Choffer.
Kingdom Hearts 3 that came out.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts 3 did come out.
And it was met... I feel like we might have talked about this last episode, but they're insisting that we didn't.
Because it was not out by then.
Okay.
I remember Dream very specifically was talking all about, like, other stuff.
Okay.
But, like, he was talking about how the game was going to be great and how he was, like, everything that he was expecting of it.
Okay, yeah.
But the game had not actually... Yeah, well, as I understand it, the issue is, like, it has a lot of pacing issues. Like... Can I say something about the pacing, even if it's not like a direct spoiler? I know you haven't played the game yet.
I mean, I know some things about it, so I have a feeling you might be talking about the thing I'm thinking of, but go for it.
Okay. Well, like, for one, the first like 80% of the game has literally nothing to do with the story. And then they front load solving every single plot thread from all bajillion like side things all at once in the finale.
Yeah, from what I've heard is that like the game starts out kind of slow, and then the whole thing is unlike in previous Kingdom Hearts games, or at least in Kingdom Hearts 2, because if I say that, Dream will like be like, but actually, anyway. So in Kingdom Hearts 2, one of the things is that like you'd go to the Disney worlds and you'd complete their little like quests, but sometimes you'd go back. You could go to like whichever ones that you would want to. You could like stop halfway through and go to another one. To my knowledge, the way it works in Kingdom Hearts 3, and I mean, forgive me if this was in a previous Kingdom Hearts game that I haven't played all the way through, because Kingdom Hearts 2 is the only one that I've played fully through. I wonder why. But the thing is that apparently the whole thing is that like you go through the entirety of the Disney World in one go, and it's relatively long. It's like a huge. You just do the whole thing at once, and then you never go back, and it doesn't mean anything. And basically, there's all this like plot stuff going on in the background. Meanwhile, Sora, Donald, and Goofy are just dicking around in Disney Worlds for actually no reason.
This is pretty good. This is a pretty good place to find some ingredients.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dark Donald comes out of the high school, just.
Mm-hmm.
But what it is like, yeah, they have all of the Disney worlds at the beginning, and also there's no Final Fantasy representation.
Yeah.
In the game, it's only Disney representation, and so they have all of these Disney worlds that have no plot progression, and as I understand it, you're almost never even involved in the Disney plot. It's not like Kingdom Hearts 2, where like you will fight the big bad of the story or whatever, and like you're a part of it. It's more just either it's an original plot that involves like, I don't know, some Heartless or whatever sometimes, or it's a like scenes ripped straight from the movie, but they sit Donald, Sora, and Goofy in the back. Like, apparently that's what the Frozen world is.
They
like,
do. They do like an entire recreation of Let It Go.
But they just have Sora, this anime pro tag, sitting in the background, like, oh boy.
Wow, look at Elsa go.
Yeah, and then suddenly they do like a million things with fan service, setting up future games.
Yeah, again,
and closing all of the old end loops and everything in like the last level.
Yeah, from what I've heard, most of the people that are like diehard Kingdom Hearts fans really like the ending of the game, but that's like it.
Yeah.
So
and like, I know the ending. All I'll say is, I get why a lot of fans would like it, but I feel like a lot of that is because it is super fan pandery, and oftentimes it sacrifices what I believe is good writing for the sake of making those fans happy for their long wait.
Okay.
So take that how you will, but like, I know for a fact some people are disappointed with Xehanort's motives on why he did everything.
Okay. Yeah,
like,
I really don't know, but.
And then apparently, like, the whole fight at the like all of the stuff where you fight the real Organization 13 members in the last fight is apparently kind of disappointing, and the game is too easy. I've heard.
Yeah, that's the main thing I've heard, is that it's like even on the hardest difficulty, it's like it's like literally mindless sometimes.
Yeah. So I mean, I've heard that there are some good things about it, like you know how. Like you can level up specific Keyblades instead of just having like, oh, this one has better stats than this one, or whatever. And then on top of that, they have, what is it? Like, they have basically each Keyblade has a form change, which is kind of like the forms from Kingdom Hearts 2, except
the drives.
Your weapon.
Yeah,
the drives. But instead of like you just having all of them based on whatever the mechanic was, it's like it's based on what Keyblade you have. Like, one of them basically gives you Wisdom form. But which I think that's a cool idea, because that lets you choose what you want to specialize in more than just saying, oh, I picked the best one.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, meh. I mean, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna play it at some point, but only after I play all the other games, so that maybe the story will mean something.
Yeah. Well, as I've heard, like, they kind of lore dump all of the details, so I think you'd probably only need to play like 285 over whatever it was days.
Yeah.
And one and my sleep.
Yeah, the thing is that, like, from what I've heard anyway, because I have like the Kingdom Hearts like collection or whatever, the HD on PS4, so I was planning on playing through one at some point. I know they have all the cutscenes from number days. Like, they have them in like a movie format, so I can just watch that. And then I know they have Birth by Sleep as like an actual remastered thing, and from what I hear, Birth by Sleep is one of the actual good ones. So, like, you know. That should be intriguing. And then at that point,
Birth by Sleep, I've heard, is one of the good ones, but it's also like the originator of the floaty combat that comes from the other games. So
I don't know. Again, I just know from what I've heard, because I played through all of 2. I played a bit of Dream Drop Distance, but I lost the cartridge and never really was enticed enough to get a new one. I started playing through 1 like at the beginning of the last college semester, but then just never continued. So,
yeah.
You know.
What happened with me is, I've said this before, but I have a weird history with because I've never played them. Recently, I think it was when Bryce wanted to do the Kingdom
Yeah.
Hearts campaign, I was like, oh man, I've been intending to get into this. I should try. So I tried playing Kingdom Hearts 1 Final Mix on an emulator, but as it turns out, there is no complete English patch of the emulator. Not as in all the text isn't translated, but there are bugs that make certain bosses just unkillable, so you have to like switch it back to Japanese. And
What
then
an odd
switch back.
bug.
Yeah.
I know, like it just removes their hitbox. Like
Huh.
Oogie Boogie just doesn't have a hitbox, and same with Ursula.
Huh.
In
Isn't that I find that really funny.
They put bugs in it.
yes, yeah, they put hitbox in it.
They
You're
put
right.
bugs in it.
But like and I have a PlayStation 3 now, so eventually when I have money, I'll buy what is it?
It's the
1.5
1.5 plus 2.5 remix thing.
Yeah. Well, it's 1.5 and 2.5 separately because they added them together for the PS4. But I just have
Right.
PS3.
Yeah. Right.
1.5 featuring 2.5 from the Devil May Cry series.
Yeah.
And so I'll play all of those eventually, probably after Demon Souls though. But like, so I only got to like Oogie Boogie there. But because I've like been on the internet for so much of my life, and like I've been a part of the old Countdown community that was on YouTube, that was like a thing that I'm sure most kids who grew up around my age remember.
Yep.
Kingdom Hearts was always a hot button topic. So I have like this weird thing where a lot of like things about Kingdom Hearts give really emotional reactions from me, but I couldn't say a damn thing about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I feel similarly. I mean, I feel similarly with a lot of Kingdom Hearts things because of that, as well as there were friends I had at the time who I haven't talked to in years, but they were like massive Kingdom Hearts fans, and like I remember for one of my birthdays, like they got me a PS2 with Kingdom Hearts 2 at one point. I was like, oh my god! And so like I was like, because of them, I was like super into like Kingdom Hearts stuff, even though I had no idea what any of it was. And similar to that with like Countdown stuff, I mean, it's the same way I got introduced to No More Heroes. So
Yeah.
With all that stuff happening, Kingdom Hearts is super weird because it's one of those franchises that I have like emotional investment in some parts of it, like Sora as a character. Like realistically, I don't feel like I know anything really about him outside of what happens in KH2, but like I still love him for some reason. Like
yeah,
I don't know what it is.
yeah. And then like for me, I really love the concept of like the organization, and then like because I don't know how much you've read of the plot of the other games, but I literally just spoiled the entire franchise for my way back when I was a child. So there are a lot of characters that give me the emotional reaction, like Axel.
I know a lot of people have a lot of emotional attachment to Axel, and I don't know why yet, but I know that like there's stuff that happens in 2 and he's cool, but like I don't know the full picture yet.
It has to do with 285.
Yeah,
I
figured because that's like him, Roxas, and Shion the whole time.
Yeah, his relationship with Roxas and Shion. To be honest, like having looked at like all of the different like trios of characters and friends they keep doing, it's weird because I find them like they're supposed to be the characters without emotion, but I find that they're probably like the most well developed. Like you get like some scenes with Riku and Sora and Kairi together at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yeah.
But it's like
But they didn't put bugs in them yet, so what's
they didn't put bugs in them yet.
Yeah,
so
they didn't put any meat on the bone in to him.
No on the bone meat.
No on the bone meat.
Speaking of which,
don't spoil it.
Yeah, but and another thing why I have a weird connection. I think I've said this before, but like after school, when I was in elementary school, a bunch of the parents worked late because life is a thing. So like the YMCA near me have like a Y care thing after school, where like they would basically just babysit all the kids in the cafeteria until the parents came.
Until their time came.
And occasionally, this one guy would bring his PlayStation. I think it was a 2 or 3. I don't remember. But and it had Kingdom Hearts 1 on it, or a version of it. And he would have the kids play it. And so we would never have enough time because we would always switch and be like, no, I want to play the opening, and so that we delete each other's save files constantly. So we never got past the intro. but we just played that like intro with like the glass pane and like the boss and everything over and over, and something about like the heartless turning into shadows and stuff. I don't know, it was like weirdly impactful to me, and I wanted to know more about the characters.
Yeah.
But that's just weird emotional stuff with.
And then there's
Weird emotions is a rarity for Zanza Claus.
And then there's Dobbleban Gooboob there too.
And he wants to find Ingrogglements.
Ingrogglements. May
Yeah.
the light be my guiding key. Sora! Donald!
This is a good spot
to find some ingredients.
Here's a weird tip. So let's say like you turn on a sink, like you brush your teeth and you turn on a sink to like, you know, get water to wash it out or whatever.
Yeah.
And like put your put your mouth to it like on the side of as the stream goes, and then whisper speak. This is a good spot to find some ingredients, and no matter what, it will sound like Donald Duck.
That's great.
I found this out.
Nice.
Because, you know, I do experiments.
What? You found this out?
Yes!
I'm as unsurprised as I am confused.
It's an experiment.
Yeah, I experimented how reality
Mm-hmm.
key info.
This is how you can become a duck.
If you whisper unto the stream for brushing your teeth,
Yeah.
then
Whisper,
and only then will
whisper.
you finally decipher the meanings of reality.
Yeah, you gotta whisper sweet nothings into the ears of the faucet.
Never say that again.
I don't know, man.
Yes.
It's in my house.
You're gonna love that. Unrelated to the podcast, you're gonna love that.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So, do we have any other Kingdom Heartsy things?
I don't. Does Sylvia?
Not particularly. Kingdom Hearts was like... Actually, no. Kingdom Hearts was a really weird thing for me as a kid, because I never really got too far.
Was it hard?
It was hard for my small brain, for one. But I also, for some reason, kept deleting and starting save files, and I forget exactly why. So, like, the amount of times it's like, yes, I finally got past the first boss in Traverse Town, or whatever. It's time for me to delete the save file for some reason.
No, you see what happens was your parents was that guy at Ycare.
Oh my god!
And then we would all delete your save files so we could play the opening again.
It all makes sense.
I've been tormenting you long since.
Or maybe they put bugs in your PS2.
I'm leaning more towards the bugs option, really.
I see. Really, you're gonna underestimate my hope?
Speaking of. So
Yeah.
we're gonna
game
Oh wait, actually, wait, sorry. I know transitions are
okay.
really perfect, but really quickly, I know Zanza mentioned it, but Sekiro came out. And,
Right, yeah. The next From Software game. Of course, like the thing is, they want to put the whole Souls style game on like the back burner because they've made, let's see, 5 of them now, because there's Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1 through 3, and Bloodborne. And they're all like basically the same template of game, but they put different design philosophies to them. That's
they put
basically
different bugs in them.
Mm-hmm.
they put different bugs in them. I mean, that is also true. The games are maybe a little weird, but so they made Sekiro, which is very different from what I've seen, but also it's a third-person action game made by From Software, so everyone's Souls. I mean, more so than they say like Crash Bandicoot is Dark Souls. So
Crash Bandicoot is the Dark Souls of platformers.
But like, it looks super interesting and super good, and you've got like a prosthetic arm, but like they do really crazy shit with it, I've heard. And like there's grappling hooks and stuff, and it's like all open world. And there's like crazy stealth mechanics, and also just straight up combat mechanics, and like it just seems really good. And I'm trying to stay as spoilo free because it will be my first From Software game, other than I guess when I eventually play Demon Souls, that I haven't just been spoiled on completely.
And then really quickly, just to mention, we don't need to talk too long on it, but like for one, the Nintendo Switch has like gotten its whole thing where they're getting Xbox Live support on it, and part of that is that they're porting Cuphead to Switch. So that's very interesting because,
right.
it's like a Microsoft thing. So,
Yeah, but don't you understand? In who the fuck owns Microsoft? Bill Gates.
Yeah. Bill
Uh,
Gates.
they put a hole in his head.
Oh,
And
shit.
now he's Cuphead.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
he's porting it to Switch.
Yeah, exactly. There's a hole in his brain now. And similarly, apparently, like, literally right before we started the podcast today, Way Forward announced that Shantae 5 is a thing, so, hey.
Oh!
Neat.
Wow, hot button. We actually got here pretty early for once.
Yeah, as in, like, literally right before, right when I woke up from my nap, I checked my phone. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool, I guess. So, that happened. Just want to mention it. There's not really anything else on it except there's another Shantae. So, hey, there she goes.
I guess that little spark of news will give some people hope.
Some hope.
Speaking of hope.
Yeah, speaking of hope, we have this week's, this podcast's game thing. Last time it was suggested by Dream. He's not here today, but I mean, he did suggest the game, and we're going to talk about it because we've been waiting for long enough. So,
yeah, we've all, I mean, technically I played it before I even announced one as a thing, because literally a certain moment in this game is the reason why I both mentioned Danganronpa 1 as a game for the podcast, and why I continually hammered in a certain joke. For the one build-up that took months to pay off and was so worth it. But besides that, I know that Austin and Sylvia played it months ago because, like, we were waiting for a long time for the other episodes to eventually get around to this one, and y'all were like, I don't want to wait anymore, I just want to play them.
Yeah, that was the thing, because it was like the thing where, like, we knew that Dream was going to suggest it as his game, so it's like, hey, let's play it in advance, so that when we actually get to that episode, we can record it really quickly.
5 decades later.
Yeah.
We're here.
So 6 months later.
Yeah. So, if it wasn't obvious enough, the game we're talking about is Danganronpa 2, or Super Danganronpa 2, or Super Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair. One of those. Point is, it's the second Danganronpa game. So,
and again, here's my stereotypical bit about it's a very story-driven game. If you don't want to be spoiled, you should probably not watch the thing. There's a timestamp in the description for just skipping to the part where Zanza recommends the next game.
Yeah, so as Sylvia said, if you haven't played it and you don't want to be spoiled, then skedaddle for now. But otherwise, we're gonna
understand that this is all the time you got. Go and play some Animal Crossing New Leaf on your Nintendo 3DS.
We're gonna be spoiling it dry. So we're gonna be talking about everything, and we're gonna make sure that we don't take as inhumanely long as the time we were talking about DR1. So
yeah. Well,
and the thing is,
we were trying. It was partly because we had 5 people, and partly because we were trying to
sum up the entire game's plot.
Yeah. Instead of going through and just talking about it casually.
Yeah,
I thought it was a smart idea in my head because we got to talk about a lot of details and stuff. But at the same time,
you thought it was a smart idea in your head, but little did you know that you had a hole.
Yeah, a hole in your brain, and you were Cuphead. Yeah.
Oh my god, I was Cuphead the whole time.
You were Cuphead. Whoa.
Anyway,
but the whole thing is we're gonna try and keep it relatively brief because I mean if you're watching this and you've played DR2 before or you've spoiled it in other sorts of fashions, we don't need to go over every waking detail in the plot. We can just kind of give our main opinions. And the thing is that at least the 3 of us here, we've kind of been ruminating on these opinions for the past however many months now. So yeah. I'm sure we have a lot to say, but also we can word it a lot better than if we had before.
Yeah, it's one of those weird situations where this is a game where we've all actually had a long time to think about it, and also played. The thing is, we've all played Danganronpa V3 too. So it's it's extra weird because before these 2 chuckle fucks, and me too, because I'd only played up to 2, hadn't experienced the whole story, but now we have, and so this might be a little bit more insightful than just our immediate reactions.
It's a bit weird going back into it.
And I'm sure that we're all trying to divorce the opinions of V3 from the opinions of 2. Anyway, do we want to get to the numbers?
The numbers?
Oh, the sum up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So who wants to go first?
Overall.
I'll go first because I feel like it. So, The thing is, if I remember correctly, I gave Danganronpa 1 a 7 because it was one of those, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Because the whole thing overall was I really liked Danganronpa 1. It was a very it was a very engaging thing to me. I was definitely super absorbed into it, and I liked the whole concept, and I felt like throughout it had like a mostly consistent sense of quality, and even though it wasn't the greatest thing ever, there was a lot to it that I really liked. But it wasn't on that threshold where it's like, this is something that like I absolutely like love every single bit about and I'm going to play at some point, which is where I usually give like 8 and above, which is where like Persona 4, Psychonauts, and Kid Icarus have been, because there's just something about those games that are like, this is definitely me right here. This is definitely me when I'm liking video games. There was something there was something about DR1 where it was just like very slightly off the threshold where I really liked it, and there was a lot of it that I was super into, but it wasn't like it was whatever. And
it wasn't hitting the mark the same way.
It wasn't hitting the mark in the exact same way. But I think I'm going to give DR2 a very similar score, as in the same score of 7, but for a different reason, in the sense that I feel like most of the beginning parts of DR2 and a lot of the middle of it and like a lot of like the initial elements I feel are worse compared to the first game, but the ending of DR2 propels it far beyond DR1 wherever it went, and I think it equalizes out, giving it the same score.
So,
Alright,
that's fair.
Yeah, I feel like overall that they're relatively the same, whereas I think like DR1 maintains a relatively consistent level of quality with some dips and some peaks, but overall it's a consistent experience throughout, whereas 2 I think starts out kind of slow and has some moments, but the further it gets in, I feel like it gets better and better, and the ending is fucking crazy, so...
Yeah.
Especially the thing that we're all going to talk about, let's all be honest.
We can talk about that when the summary is done.
Yes.
Yeah. Sylvia, you want to go next, or do you want me?
Yeah, sure. So I am rating this the same as the same as the first game, 8 out of 10.
I see.
Because I think that this game improves on some things, and then just kind of tears the improvement down a bit later. And it's a very one step forward, one step back kind of experience, but it's still the same enjoyable Danganronpa bull. Therefore, I'm sticking with 8. That's it. That's my speech. Sticking with an 8.
All right. Well, I will say this is a little interesting for me because Austin gave it the same scores before. Sylvia gave it the same scores before. I gave Danganronpa 1 a 7. I'm giving this one a 5. And to be honest, I was tempted to give it a 4 because
neat.
I was shifting between the 4 to 6 area, and I decided for to do a 5. So, but like, because listen, I like Sylvia, you said that like the quality was like higher, but then kind of like gets worse, I think. And then Austin, you were saying like the reverse, it goes worse and then it gets better.
Yeah.
At the very end. Like for me, Danganronpa 1's quality curve was it kind of starts out low, but then it like goes up and then like continues to increase in quality at a steady pace.
Yeah, exactly.
And, like there's never like a massive jump in quality, but it generally just improves the whole way. And by the end, I'm like, yeah, this is a pretty good game.
It's a pretty good game.
Exactly.
With this game, the way I will say it is, Chapter 1 is that's good. You know, this is a good sign for the rest of the game. Boom, bad. Then Chapter 5 happens, and it's the best chapter in the entire franchise. And again, I'll say that later. It's the best chapter in the entire franchise, and then it has an ending that I think is probably the worst of the endings, but it's still pretty good because I actually like the Danganronpa endings.
Exactly.
And so it's this weird thing where like the beginning and the middle is just a void of mediocrity, and the game is much longer, and all of the chapters and the trials are longer, so that mediocrity feels way worse. And I will personally say, with the exception with one character being neutral and then one character being a massive exception, everyone this is why in when we were talking about Danganronpa 1, and Dream was like, I recognize that they're all one-dimensional characters,
Uh-huh.
so I said it. And I clarified, nah, I believe they're two-dimensional. That's because this cast is the definition of one-dimensional. They all have single character traits. They barely, with like, I guess maybe Sonya, that is her one character trait. They never react to any of like the shitty stuff happening around them in a reasonable way.
Well, except for Kazuichi, kinda.
Yeah, but that is Kazuichi's one character
exactly.
trait. If it's not in their one character trait, they don't get it. And it hurts because like as I understand it, they develop it a lot more the free time events. And I've seen some of the free time events, but even then, like, those are like, I feel like they're still very hit or miss, and overall it often, as much as the backstory behind it helps to make you appreciate the characters more, with the exception of the one thing at the end, it does not help. So I will say that my 5 rating is because the game overall is just a really, really long slog, but there are 3, I've counted 3 things in this game that are genuine 10 out of 10 things that you will rarely ever experience in any other game, and that boosts it to a 5 or a 6. You know, I was debating, but I'm going with a 5, and that is the only reason I'm recommending this, and the fact that V3 is great, and you have to play this one first.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with that in a sense, but I feel like while I agree that the characters are very, like, as you were saying, you clarify because the characters in 2 are one-dimensional, and at the time I was like, well, I don't know, because I mean, these characters seem pretty basic in 1. Then I played 2 and understood what you meant, because with, as you were saying, with a half of exception and then a huge exception, they're all pretty much very one note, and that's literally all they have to their name. But the thing is that, like, while I would say that a lot of it is kind of like a slog of mediocrity, I still feel like there were some like relative high points in the beginning of the game where I don't think it was like absolutely terrible getting through it. Like, I was still enjoying myself.
Yeah, for me that was at best like the chapter 1, because it was like, this is a potentially good thing to lead into later, but then they didn't build on it. That was my,
Yeah, I mean,
so I guess I can kind of get that.
Yeah, I'll get into it when we start talking about some of the more specifics. But just in general, there's a lot of things that I feel like that really work sort of kind of near the beginning, but then also a lot of things that are really bringing it down. Which is, as I was saying, I think the beginning part is sort of like what you were saying as a slog. It's more to me like it's a lot harder to get through than some of the parts in DR1 at the same pace. But then the end of the game and stuff that happens with that and stuff that builds on just is fucking amazing and completely.
Well, by that, do you mean the ending or do you mean mechanically?
I mean, like, the ending, and I mean sort of just like generally by the end, like the ending and like how like events lead up to that, and like just pretty much overall, I feel like certain things. It's hard to explain without saying the exact specifics, which we'll get into. But
I mean, you can say some of the specifics because I'm having a really hard time understanding what you mean.
Yeah, because all right, so what I'm trying to say then is basically I feel like both like in terms of story, like there are certain so gameplay stuff. There's a lot of like nice not quality of life. There's some like nice tweaks and like aesthetic changes. In terms of stuff, like, I feel like for the most part, like, the UI HUD stuff is the same as in DR1, but there's something about the way, I don't know if it's just because I'm more used to it from DR1, but there's something about it that didn't feel as, like, initially clunky to me. There are some gameplay elements, like the quote-unquote improved Hangman's Gambit, which is otherwise known as the worst one.
Are you sure about this?
Yeah. There's otherwise known as the worst Hangman's Gambit, and the rhythm game that I find a little more tolerable than the one in the first game. And I actually really enjoy Logic Dive, even though it's kind of pointless in terms of actual mechanic.
Yeah, and unrelated to the entire
it's unrelated, but I find it fun. So, like...
I find it funny, especially because I got to watch Sylvia
continually
fail at them.
I feel... should we just, like, explain that now?
I mean, I feel like I did by saying you failed at them.
Well, for some I feel like putting a bit more context. For some ungodly reason, I was playing part 5 or chapter 5 with these two watching, and for some ungodly reason, I just suddenly became the worst at the logic dives. I managed to somehow go backwards by hitting multiple obstacles, which these people had never thought possible, but I proved it.
Yeah, that
I
was
barely,
hilarious.
I did play it up, if not barely, and it was just a general weird experience.
Yeah.
But yeah,
My face when I get like 4 game overs.
I want to say it was more 3,
But,
but it's still unexcusable.
But yeah, as I was saying though with it, like there are some gameplay stuff like that I feel like they add some like fun little quirks into it. And I feel as if there's one thing that I really like about 2 is that all of the setups to the murders, I think, well, with the exception of maybe number 1, I feel like all of the setups to the murders are really interesting. They don't really like follow up on that intrigue and what actually happens a lot of the time, but the setup is intriguing to the point where it's like, oh man, this is a cool thing, like where is this taking us? And then, you know, I personally, it's a little bit more wacky cartoony, like despair disease, but I think like at the same time, while it is wacky cartoony, I like the variety, and I like the variety. Like it's different from 1, but there are concepts that I like, and while the characters are one note, and a lot of it's like, haha, isn't it a funny comedy? And a lot of the time it isn't funny. There are some moments when it is, and I feel like there are some good quality moments occasionally throughout the beginning of the game.
2 things. I think, one, this is probably the funniest Danganronpa, and I feel like even though it tries to be the funniest, and I feel like all of the jokes that it tries to tell end up failing, it weirdly also ends up being the funniest ironic.
I was gonna say that like what they try to do comedically doesn't work. Ironically, and because of the presence of Komaeda everywhere, it's hilarious. But like with the jokes they want, but but with the one joke that the jokes they want to be funny are not what's actually funny most of the time. It's like the stuff that you make fun of. I think V3 is the most intentionally funny, but like
I would agree.
Yeah.
And the second thing I wanted to say is I like the thing is all of like the intro things where they're like, oh, despair disease. Oh, I never really found like it wasn't even just it's wacky, like it, you know, kind of thing. It was always, I felt like they were always really obvious and predictable, and they didn't feel real. Like the thing is, even after playing V3, I think the one thing Danganronpa 1 has all the other games beat is they feel the most, unless I guess you count the ending of V3, which is really fucked.
Yeah.
But they like feel the most real. Like, and I don't mean like in kind of like a vague in kind of a vague way, but I mean specifically with how like all of the characters every time they like freak the fuck out whenever someone dies. Like all of the people seem genuinely horrible.
Yeah.
And then like as you go, you know, like they slowly get hardened, but like not in like a I don't react anymore, but more in like a kind of like really sad, kind of pathetic way almost, you know. And all of the murder setups seem pretty logical. Like the only weird one in 1, other than like chapter 5 is supposed to be weird, but I think it makes enough sense. The only one that's kind of out there is Celeste, and that's specifically because of her whole character of I want to be the most complicated and create the best way out, you know. But I mean that's also the worst chapter, so But you know, in this game, I don't know, it feels it's more like, let's have some kind of wacky motive, because we can't just do money again.
I mean, to be fair, I agree with you, and I feel like on one hand, it's like what you're saying, like, they're being weird to be weird, but I think it's so weird. They're always so close to having something that I think is really interesting, even if it is wacky. I will say, does it feel real? No. And I feel like, as I was saying, DR1 has a much better, like, tone throughout, and the more that I'm talking, I'm probably... The thing is that every time when I start talking about the beginning of this game, I start thinking, like, yeah, I should drop this down to, like, a 6 or, like, a 5.5, but then I remember the ending, I'm like, oh, yeah, I love that too much to, like, not keep it the same. But the thing is that, like, even though the setups are a bit more, like, wacky and like, here's a weird thing because, you know, why have, you can get a hot babe if you get out of here and live a happy life, or you're infected with a horrible despair disease that makes you act the opposite of something or whatever.
Yeah.
And,
Well, no, it's not even like the fucking money thing. It's like The Secrets. That was a really good one.
Yeah.
And then what was the one for 4? Like the betrayal.
Yeah, it was the fact that Sakura was the traitor.
Yeah, I don't know. Those felt way more human and relatable to me. These were sort of, well, we gotta get someone to murder each other, so.
Except for like one motive.
To be fair,
and of course, Chapter 5.
Yeah. To be fair though, as I was saying, while I do agree that 1 in that sense is better, I wouldn't say that the wacky motives are inherently bad. They're just weird and not as relatable as something as DR1, which I think in terms of emotional impact, I don't think they have nearly the same amount of punch, but I think they're but they're definitely interesting ideas that they could do a lot with.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. Yeah. Again, I feel like they could, but they always end up squandering it. So that might make me not like, because I don't know. I feel like they make them kind of predictable. Like, especially Chapter 3, it makes Chapter 3 really predictable.
Oh, yeah.
Because the whole thing is like, let's see, who has the despair disease? Nagito, Ibuki, and Akane. So they're out of the story. Let's see. And let's make it so that there's only 3 characters that hang out with them. The main character, they're not gonna die. And then Fuyuhiko and Mikan. And so it's like, oh, so we're choosing between one of these two, and then literally one of the bullets is literally just like, oh yeah, Mikan passed by this area where the killer was at a certain time, and I didn't.
Not only that, but also the fact that if you're gonna look at things in a story standpoint, Fuyuhiko just had his big fucking redemption moment.
Yeah, so like, very unlikely that they're going to kill him, and in fact, he was planned to die, but they stopped him from doing that for that exact reason.
Exactly, yeah. That's the thing.
They stopped the dying thing.
And I'll get into that when we start talking about like character stuff. But like again, I do agree they squandered it. I feel like something like Chapter 4, with like the grape and strawberry house. I feel like is it perfect by any means? No, it's not perfect. But I found the whole I enjoyed the scenario of it personally.
For me, I didn't. Like, I get the whole motive of, oh, you don't get food anywhere. I think that's a good motive because, I mean, that's very relatable. I mean, if you boil down every war, you know, that's happened throughout history, it's mostly based on resource. You know, that's like a very human, primal kind of thing that you could understand. But the whole thing of, oh, let's set up this really weird, like, constructed house with all these weird colors and stuff, and you're stuck here. And for me, I immediately got the twist of the house. Like, before they went into it, I was, unlike a certain someone who I'm going to get into in a little bit. Immediately, when they're like, man, this elevator is thing, or it could be moving slowly. And then I'm like, wow, they sure are spending a lot of time setting up this dual nature. And like, this is the structure, guys. Look, let me show it a fifth time. This is the structure of the house as we know it. I'm like, okay. So that's not the structure of the house as we know it.
I thought it was just Danganronpa being stupid.
I mean,
little did I know that I was the stupid one.
I mean, I figured that
sometimes I get that because Danganronpa can sometimes be really stupid, like with a certain thing in V3. But
but I mean, the thing is that I think. Just to really quickly get into that, I figured that it wasn't exactly what they thought it was. I just didn't get the exact twist of what was happening, you know?
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
like,
you know that I didn't, but...
Yeah. Well, it's like they specifically point out that the elevator is moving slowly and it's taking a long time to do it. And like, that's the big pivot point. And then immediately when the kill happens and then you see it again, then at that point you should just know. But like, even before then, I feel like it's really easily guessable. And they spend so much time constructing this convoluted situation just to set it up. It's one of those things where I just don't feel it's believable. It's like a Rube Goldberg machine version of a killer kind of thing. I don't know. I don't like it. Not my thing.
Yeah, I can totally get that, and for certain things I agree with you, but I feel like a lot of the time the weird setups because maybe I'm just a little bit of a dummy sometimes, but like, I usually am able to catch on to most of what's going on with these cases before I get into it, but some of the times it's like, you know, certain details aren't like, I'll figure it out. But like, I understand most of it. Like, I mean, I feel like the first 3 cases of DR2, with some exceptions of like what happens, are like kind of like real obvious. But then, like 4 anyways, maybe it was just my monkey brain. But like, it's weird. It's a weird relationship where I hear what you're saying, and you're logically correct, but I feel like the weirdness is something that's like, I almost kind of like it.
Yeah, for me, the draw for chapter 4 is, and I think we can start jumping into it. There's Nagito Komaeda is amazing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So here's the thing. Before I know you're saying let's jump into it, but when I was originally picturing this episode, I was like, hey, let's talk about the characters and save a certain one for last because we'll have the most to say about them. So should we do that, or should we just?
Okay. Well, in that case, I guess we should do that. But before we go, Sylvia, I have something great to tell you about how Austin tried to solve chapter 4. So,
Oh boy.
you know how the whole thing...
Real quick.
Yeah, real quick.
Zanza has wanted to tell this story for months. He's been hyping this up, and I am as terrified as I am brutally intrigued. Lay it on me, bucko.
Okay, so, set the scene.
Yeah.
You know how in chapter 4 the whole thing is, the strawberry house and lime house or whatever.
Grape house.
Grape house. They're all, like, they think that they're on opposite ends that have a central building that meets up in the middle, and then they're not allowed to go into it at the same time. They have to use the elevators, right? But the actual setup is that they're on top of each other. So Austin somehow got that they were probably on top of no, he didn't think they were on top of each other at first, but his theory, because there's this thing in which like the clocks are like offset, and so it like messes with people because they can't see outside. So like that's a key part of the thing where it's like, oh, why did Nekomaru go here? You know, everything was separated. You know, we all had like the wrong times, and it was because, you know, all that stuff. Well, Austin's explanation was that Grape House and Strawberry House were on opposite sides of a line for a time zone. So Grape House was back 1 hour from Strawberry House because it was in a different time zone geographically. But that's not all. And by the way, this is when I started calling Austin a monkey relentlessly. This is what caused this.
It is.
Okay.
So he eventually, through seeing the picture, like, of the outside, not getting it for a while still, and finally getting into the trial, he's finally like, wait a second, the buildings are on top of each other. I can't believe they're actually making it so the time zone splits the building in half. Like, it just goes between the building? What is this, gamers? And the whole time, like, because Austin thoroughly believed it was the time zone thing, like, with his entire heart, and was like, this is kind of stupid. Why are they doing this time zone thing? That doesn't make any sense. Who would do something like this?
It doesn't
and then
make any
finally
sense.
the question of Nagito, it's like, he changed the clock, time away. And thus, I dubbed Austin the ultimate monkey. He has the brain of a monkey.
Yeah. Listen, it was one of those things where it was really stupid, but I was like, hey, if they did it, that'd be pretty clever.
No, you were upset. You're saying how stupid it was.
I know, yes, but it would have been unique. I can't argue against that.
But how would that even be solvable?
I don't know. Maybe Nagito looks out the window and sees a giant line that Monokuma labeled saying, this is a time zone line. I don't know.
I'm imagining a big Monokuma caricature on top of it.
Yeah, maybe like the book Nagito got from in there told the secret of the houses that
well, then
actually...
how would Gundam know?
A hamster steals the book. I don't know. Hamster pushed a button. Maybe he could steal a book.
And thus Austin was dubbed the ultimate monkey until he went to college and thus was no longer a high schooler, and Himiko inherited the role.
I mean, to be fair, I was already in college when I played the game, but
That might be what you get.
that might be what you get.
Anyway, yeah, that was unique. So, noteworthy characters.
As for
I
the
guess.
characters, yeah. The one thing.
Let's see.
All right.
Bland, Kazuichi.
Kazuichi, bland, Fuyuhiko, bland, almost Sonya, bland, Chiaki at points, bland, I like Akane, but that's because I want her to crush me, bland, Komaeda. But, like...
Yeah, Komaeda. Well, no, but, like, the thing is, apparently, the people behind Chiaki are very, very split, because half of them are like, oh my god, she's precious, I want to protect her, and she's a great character, and she's, like, you know, she is a part of the detective trio, along with Hajime and the other.
The one.
The one. But, like, at the same time, a lot of people really hate how the game, like... kind of puts her on like a higher pedestal in comparison to the other characters, and she's kind of bland because, like, unlike for a certain story reason, they had to give all of the other characters a really big human kind of personality flaw with them. But they didn't do that with Chiaki, and they just made her like oh yeah, you're really gonna love her. You know, she's like the standard like waifu bait.
Yeah.
You know, she has narcolepsy. She's a gamer.
Hey guys, can't you relate? Aren't you gamers as well?
But yeah,
I'm split between never do that again and please continue doing it.
Yeah, she pouts all the time.
Yeah.
And so, like, a lot of people were off put. Because, like, but on the other hand, I get that she's like the only character that you have to like in this game.
Yeah.
Because, like, basically all of the other characters are assholes.
In some
And,
way or
like,
another.
Yeah. And so you're not really supposed to like any of them except Chiaki, because she's a part of the big twist at the end that's supposed to get you invested and make you sad.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's why I think they try to make her so generic to cast as wide a net as possible to get as many people.
Yeah, and I mean,
I liked her, but I can still recognize that she isn't a fan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like her too. I'm just saying that is a complaint people have.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I know we wanted to have Sync on the episode, and sadly he's dealing with stuff, so he can't. But that was one of the complaints he brought up, because he really didn't like Chiaki.
Yeah, I get you. And
she was kind of a bland nothing character.
And I can totally agree with that, but I mean, I don't know. Like, the thing is that she didn't actively like annoy me or anything. Like I liked
everyone else
yeah,
did.
Like everyone. Well, here's the thing. I was gonna get to that. Here's one of my. It's one of those issues where I'm very conflicted about it, because the whole thing with Danganronpa is, you know, you're supposed to feel despair. Wow, look at all your favorite characters dying. But I will say, until Nekomaru died for the second time, I didn't care about a single character death that happened, because all of the characters besides all right, there's Hajime, who you're playing as, so he doesn't count. There's Chiaki, who you are made to like, as we said. There's Akane, who, I mean, I mentioned why I like her. There's Fuyuhiko, who has a whole character thing and is one of the actually good characters, kind of.
One of the two.
One of the two good characters. There's Kazuichi, who I love because he's my precious garbage boy.
And he screams
a lot, and he's funny. There's Sonya, who is funny sometimes and has some real good lines, and, you know...
At the end of the game.
Yeah, and is charming at points. And then there's the other one. But the thing is that everyone else... I mean,
Everybody
okay, Gundam is funny. And Nekomaru Gundam's funny, and Nekomaru has some good moments too, when he's not talking about shit constantly. But like,
like we're saying, oh, this character's funny, but that's really all they have, you know?
Yeah, and all of the other characters, whether it's Teru, Hiyoko, Mahiru,
Teru especially, I absolutely
despise. Ibuki, Mikon. Mikon's the one I probably hate the most. And then there's the thing is that they do the whole thing in the beginning, because we haven't mentioned it yet, but if you watched the previous episode, you know I'm Byakuya Togami can step on my back and crush all my bones, and you know that he can do that to me. However, they do this whole thing where you see Byakuya and now he's fat because, okay, and why is Byakuya here? And what's going on? But the thing is that he doesn't act anything like Byakuya. So, at least to me, it's supposed to be signaling that there's something up, which obviously I got, but also it's like, well, I don't care when he's the first victim. Because the whole thing, I won't spoil the thing in V3, but the reason why, one gets you invested in the murder, because it's the first person that dies in the entire series. Obviously, if you're not expecting it to go that direction for whatever reason, it's like, whoa.
Like Sylvia,
it's like, whoa, this happened. The linchpin, the whole thing they're like, well, okay, we can't just do the whole thing, because the player would theoretically have played DR1 beforehand. So how are we going to make them care about the character dying in 1. Well, let's pretend that Byakuya is there, who was one of the most I say likable, but he's one of the surviving characters of the previous game, and let's kind of
likable because he's still alive.
Yeah. And let's create a scenario where a fake version that the players will believe is the there.
Yeah, and the only reason why the first death in DR2 has any impact is because they're trying to make you think it's Byakuya, who for me is my favorite DR character. So, naturally, it's like, well, shit, if my favorite character died, of course I'm gonna be sad. But they made him not my favorite character because he doesn't act anything like Byakuya. That's the thing. It doesn't, their twist doesn't even work. Because, he doesn't act like Byakuya. It's even outside of, ignoring the fact that he's fat now and now he likes food. Okay, whatever, maybe there's some reason as to why that happened between the games. But, personality-wise, he's nothing. He's kind of a little bit of a holier-than-thou occasionally, but his entire philosophy is the exact opposite of what it was in the previous game. So,
Yeah. Well, because, the weird thing is what I thought, and I believe what a lot of other people thought, because unlike most people, they're not insane Byakuya purists in which they understand. They just know his entire personality and everything because they just love him that much, and they had that connection. I thought the reasoning was because you kind of end up getting to Byakuya and his facade and stuff at the end of Danganronpa 1. So I thought it was implying that after the scenario of Danganronpa, between Danganronpa 1 and 2, with Makoto and everyone else, he went through some kind of big character growing experience.
Yeah.
And so the idea was now his whole thing was, I'm Byakuya, so I'm here to protect everyone, I'm gonna do that. And I thought the idea was that he was still the same pompous, I'm the best character, but he had learned to be more of a good human person.
Yeah.
And he had gone through character growth, and we just hadn't seen that. And so now he was gonna be more of a courageous
and
type
the thing is that while I in the back of my head, that was what I thought the reasoning was initially. That's he had some growth. But the thing is that the more I thought about it, it's okay, so he's here and he doesn't remember anything from DR1.
Well, okay, I thought that was that he wasn't mentioning anything that happened then.
Okay.
Because the whole thing is that he's super secretive about what happened in his past, and I thought, maybe they're gonna try to do something with the Future Foundation where it frames him or whatever, and then everyone thinks, oh my god, you're. So I thought,
you're the baddie.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know. I had something in the back of my head regarding that, but I always felt, obviously, there was something off, and just everything about him was oh god. I still love you, Byakuya, I'm trying to love you, bud, but you're I don't know.
Not the same character.
It's not the same character.
But then at the end, when the actual Byakuya came back, then you were yes.
Yes, then I was
Daddy.
Yeah, I was so happy. And he only had maybe 10 speaking lines in the entire game, but most of them were some of the best lines in the entire game for me.
Yeah,
so
it's almost none of the other characters except with big exception don't have any real character or personality that you can like.
Exactly. That's the thing. Oh god. But yeah, so there's that, and then there's probably some other miscellaneous character in the cast that I'm not mentioning in this half of the cast that I don't care about. But that's the point. And as I was leading into with the initial thing before we went on the Byakuya tangent that I just wanted to mention because it's important to me anyways, is that the whole thing with Danganronpa is there's supposed to feel despair with your favorite characters dying or whatever. And as I was saying before, none of the characters that I liked were dying in the first half. And with the exception of Nekomaru, Gundam, and then later Chiaki, but Chiaki's was like weird because she was like kind of okay with it, whatever, and also the plot with her. And then of course him, but he's kind of different because I mean it's not like he ever really cared about that in the first place. But then so those two are gone, and who's left? There's Hajime, obviously, Kazuichi, Fuyuhiko, Sonya, and Akane. Notice how all of those characters are ones that were like likable or whatever, tolerable, or Fuyuhiko, who had an actual character.
They were acceptable.
Yeah. They were acceptable, and all of them live. That's the
that
thing.
Means that all of the characters that you end up getting attached to, other than like maybe Chiaki, because again, the thing, all of them live, which means that you don't feel that bad about any of the character deaths. Like, I didn't feel bad about a single one. The only, again, I'm gonna say this because like, unlike Austin, I didn't get attached. Like, I recognize some of the characters were better than others, but I didn't really get attached to any of the characters other than, like, I thought Fuyuhiko was okay as a character arc, and then the big one. And the thing with the big one is the fact that his death builds on his character because of the circumstances.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, everything with that, it's great, and he's like by far the best character in the entire game, if not the entire series, because of just everything regarding him. But the thing is that just in general, like, the problem is like, yeah, am I happy that all of my favorite characters, with the exception of like a few, lived? I mean, I'm happy, yeah, I guess, to see them live, kind of, but like also, the whole point of Danganronpa is that it's supposed to make you feel sad. And I didn't feel sad at anyone's deaths, really.
Exactly. The entire point has been...
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, maybe it's just the type of characters that I tend to like, but like with DR1, it's like, oh man, I immediately gravitated towards Leon. Okay, he's dead. Well, at least Mondo and Chihiro are still here. No, they're not. Okay, well, Taka's doing okay, right? No. Sakura's cool? No. Well, at least I'm still here. Makoto, you're the killer. What? Like, you know, like, like they do. That's the thing with DR1. Meanwhile, DR2. Well, there's this Byakuya who I don't really like as much anymore. Who it's kind of sad that Byakuya died, but there's something fishy anyway. Okay, Teru. I mean, he had some good lines, but whatever. I don't really care. He's gone. Then Mahiru, she's really pretty, but I didn't really care for her outside of being pretty. All right. Then Peko. Okay, I really did not give a shit about Peko. Then there's...
I found her cute.
I mean, she's cute, kinda. She's cute, but I don't care about her.
Fluffy thing.
The best part about Peko is how she enhances Fuyuhiko's character, if that tells you anything. So
probably.
So then chapter 3, you get rid of the 3 worst characters in one fell swoop. I'm happy, not sad, because you got rid of all 3 of them at once. Then 4 happens. Okay, I'm sad to see Nekomaru and Gundam, but also, like, Nekomaru, like, half died before, and now he's a robot, and so if he died again, it's whatever. And Gundam's, like, really weird anyway. And you don't attach to him as a human for the most part. He's like...
Yeah, he's a meme,
Dark Deva's
like,
destruction?
He's kind of a sweet... Yeah, I guess. But, like, he's still kind of a sweet boy, and, like, yeah, he probably does get the most emotional reaction out of you, but, like, it's still,
Yeah, and then after that, it's like, okay, so we go through most of the game, and with the exception of maybe Nekomaru and Gundam, and Mahiru because she's pretty, and maybe if you didn't catch on to something weird being with Byakuya, but, like, up until then, there's no despair other than what the characters are saying, you know? And then, then Chiaki happens, and everything with
sick bears.
Yeah, Chiaki happens, and that's the first time, again, because you're kind of made to like Chiaki, where even if, like, I'm not, like, the biggest Chiaki fan or everything, but it is still kind of sad to see her go. Even if it's, like, whatever. And, I mean...
And then the game's over.
And no one else dies. And Chiaki, like, never goes away either. She's still there, kind of. Like, you know... She gives Hajime the Squidward boost at the end, and then, you know.
Yeah.
So, like, there's that issue, not to mention the fact that, with the exception of Chiaki's, all of the executions in DR2 are big steaming garbo.
Yeah, because the whole thing is the fact that the main director,
Yeah.
I forgot the guy's name again, but he directed the executions for Danganronpa
Yeah.
1, then he stepped off for 2.
Except for Chiaki.
No, he didn't do Chiaki.
Oh, I thought
either.
he did Chiaki's. Okay.
No, he did none of them.
Okay.
And so then at the very after that, he was so upset with the executions that's why he comes back for V3, and that's why the executions in V3 are so fucking brutal.
There's a reason why they're the best ones in the series. Like,
yeah, because he was like, I gotta make up for 2, which for some reason it's the fans' favorite, even though I think it's the worst of the trilogy.
oh yeah, I will agree with that. I give it the same score as 1,
Yeah.
but I'd say it's the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, like all of the fans go, oh yeah, this one's the best one by far, and I don't get that. But
And you're all wrong.
y'all are wrong.
Mhm.
I'm just,
Ding
you
dong.
know, I guess they just really wanted to fuck Nagito.
Mhm.
Dude.
But like, you know, it's just
Mhm. Yeah, like it's just I've gone through it before, but like with just like privately with you guys, but like for the podcast, I might as well just say it just to like do a quick rundown. I mean, Teru,
Yeah.
outside of not really caring about him, kind of it's weird because when it comes to the setups for the murders, like for the initial murders, them being kind of wacky doesn't bother me as much. But for some reason, the executions being handled in the same way really bother me because the thing is that like. I feel like the
Teru's a shrimp.
yeah, because like okay, you go to DR1, boy gets destroyed by like how many baseballs? Like, a fucking 1,000 baseballs. He gets like absolutely brutalized. Mondo's I think is potentially one of the is probably the weakest outside of maybe the alter ego one, but I don't even really count that. Like Mondo's is kind of the weakest, but it's still like something, and it has a comedic end to it. So like whatever. Then Celeste is definitely something. Alter ego is, I mean, it's kind of one of those things of like holy shit, they found him.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like if it was to a person, it would be really brutal.
Yeah.
Because he's basically crushed repeatedly by a forklift.
Yeah, exactly. And then like everything else is like kind of, you know, it's weird because like it's Makoto, but you don't actually get executed.
Yeah,
But then
but the one that like, because like if you choose the
Yeah.
wrong thing, then you get to watch
Hyoko.
and when it actually happens, it is a terrifying one
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's like you're rolling back and you hear the sound of slamming, but you're not allowed to turn and see when it's gonna happen.
Mhm.
At the very best, you can look up right before it lands.
Yeah, exactly. And then what do we got in 2? In 2, Chef Man gets tied to a pole, gets turned into shrimp, and then dunked in a volcano. Pecco's...
Yeah, but he doesn't even like boil.
Yeah.
It's like comedic.
Yeah, then Pecco, very similar to her entire character. Pecco's is more about Fuyuhiko than it is about her. Then Mikon's is like the worst in the entire series and doesn't really relate to anything.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah. She goes on a giant arm that gets stuck with a needle and then rocket ships in space.
Yeah.
Will she orgasm?
Yeah, exactly. Then Gundams had the potential to be really good, but they fucked it up because it's like a stampede of bulls, but he doesn't get trampled and destroyed. He gets hit once, knocked into the air, then dies peacefully as his soul goes to heaven, and then Monokuma doesn't even kill the hamsters.
Yeah, to be honest, I was really hoping that like the stampede would stop and then kill the hamsters and then he get crushed,
Yeah.
like when he like stopped doing the circle thing.
Yeah, like Gundams was like it could have been good, but it wasn't. And then I think that Chiaki's was the only good one because like it had some like there's the whole thing she's running away constantly. There's all these different game things, and there's like sure it's like Tetris, whoa, but I mean she is the ultimate gamer, and the whole thing.
Well,
is...
no. You know what annoys me?
What?
You know what really annoys me?
What?
This is super small, but when they fit in the last Tetris block,
It doesn't clear the line.
Yeah, no, it
Yeah,
happens wrong. It happens wrong,
Yeah.
and that really angered me.
Yeah.
And there's no blood splatter.
Yeah, no, again, Chiaki's is the best one, but that's because the other ones are so bad. That's the thing.
Yeah, well, like if hers were in Danganronpa 1, then it would probably be the worst outside of maybe
Maybe Mondo's?
Oh, I mean, I'd say the only one that would be worse than this is probably Celeste. I think Mondo's is just kind of weird, but it ends on comedically. But it's really brutal when you think about it. Like
yeah.
you're moving so fast, you vaporize.
Yeah.
And then become butter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then if you're asking...
What's the thing with like the beginning near near the beginning executions having to do with big thing.
I don't know.
But
But yeah, so the whole thing is that
meanwhile,
there's... Mhm.
yeah. Meanwhile, you compare it to the Danganronpa V3 things, and I'm not gonna say them because
Yeah.
we haven't gotten to that, so it's spoilers. But like that first one, holy shit!
The first one's the best one in the series.
Yeah,
Something else.
that's just so unnecessarily cruel in
Yeah.
all the best ways.
Exactly. And there's a
The
reason...
most dispareful way.
Yeah, there's. I mean, I won't spoil everything, but there's a reason why V3 is like really good. But like,
Yeah.
the thing is,
Although, again, conversely, most of the Danganronpa fans think that V3 is the worst of the
and
trilogy.
they're wrong.
Yeah, they're big poopy
Well,
faces.
and it's really funny because actually, this is just like a small tangent before we get back to the characters. So, because we've gone over most of the ones that we really want to talk about, except I want to get into Fuyuhiko just for a small bit. But the thing is that I have my one friend that I sort of introduced into Danganronpa while I've been playing this. I've mentioned her a bunch, and like when talking to you guys, and so the whole thing is that she's like played through 1 and 2, okay, whatever, and like it's so funny because like she played through most of V3, and it's like I'm hearing what the general consensus of like the Danganronpa fan base that V3 was out to kind of criticize. Like it's kind of like I'm hearing that side from like someone that I know personally, and it's really weird because it's like you're missing the point. Like, you know?
Yeah. I don't even like know how to say it, but that always frustrates me. I don't know if it's because, like, I guess it makes sense because, like, even though I know for a fact that we all think of video games and stuff very differently, but we all have like a kind of similar sensibility, and so that's probably why we have the same opinions on Danganronpa. But like mostly, but like. I don't know. There's just something weird about like
mostly 5 and 5, 8, 7.
It's just like it's so weird because like I know so many people that are like into Danganronpa, but the whole thing is like I don't know. It's so like because okay, if you care about Danganronpa 3, the anime, spoilers for that really quickly. But the whole thing, because like. The whole thing with 2 is, they're in the Neo World program. It's like it's all a digital thing. Monokuma's
Wait, spoil it. Wow. How could you?
Yeah.
Actually, all I'll say is for people who are worried about Danganronpa 3, the anime spoilers, I'm gonna go ahead and give you a warning right now. Do not watch
Don't.
that, because
It ruins
depending on
it.
the kind of person you are who watches medium, how you consume media, it could not just be terrible and a waste of time. It could ruin the entire Danganronpa franchise for you, depending on the kind of person you are. Like, it's genuinely that bad. The retcons that they do ruins like the best parts of this game and a lot of the good parts of 1 as well.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, like we'll probably get into it in a sec after I talk about like just as this like leading thing, because I know we keep getting
I just wanted to say that in case anyone's like, oh, I want to
right. So
Danganronpa 3 for myself.
Yeah.
Just don't.
Yeah, just
like,
don't.
This is not even like a recommendation. Command.
Yeah, this is like you must obey our orders right now, or we will personally come and
shred you.
Yeah, shred, destroy, maim, kill, torture. Anyway,
Crush.
Point is, the whole thing with ending a DR2, it's the whole virtual thing. They're all in like they've been the coma, ultimate despair, all that bullshit. So the whole thing with 3, right, is that because of Hajime's whole plot twist with Izuru Kamakura, isn't his whole thing like he's just so good at everything now that he revives everyone?
Yeah, no, that's how they retcon it.
Yeah, that's how they retcon it, right?
Because originally, the whole thing is that, Izuru Kamakura's whole thing is the fact that he is the opposite of Hajime, and that he is talent personified, and because of that, he is a complete, like, unfeeling demigod who doesn't give a shit about anything. And he only does this whole thing because he just wants to see, because he thinks it will be interesting if he does the whole thing with Junko in the Neo World program. He just wants to see how it turns out. So, like, he's supposed to be this really terrifying, unfeeling character who is involved in the starting of the tragedy. Like, he was the guy who did the biggest step that pushed it there, while Junko was the mastermind that planned it. And so at the end, the whole thing is like, no, that's not me. I reject what I was in my past and whatever, and I'm gonna like reject what the system has pushed me into becoming, and through impossible odds I'm gonna choose to be me and do whatever I want. And so the whole thing is that he's the only one that revives. He's with no despair. The other characters are technically alive, but he has no despair, and he's Hajime again. Well, they decide to retcon that and say, oh no, he's both now, so he's a good guy, but he's also God. He gets the best of both worlds. It's not like that removes the whole like struggle of his character.
Yeah.
It's almost like the whole thing was that he was sacrificing himself for talent, and the whole point was that's bad. Well, apparently it's not, because you can just get both.
You can get both. And the whole thing is that they revive all of the characters that were dead in 2, because technically they were all in the pods the whole time, just comatose. And he uses his future powers to revive everyone. And the whole thing...
Yeah, because he's God, because he's Kamakura.
Yeah, and so the whole point that I'm getting to this is like...
God Makura.
The whole thing that I'm leading up to with this with my one friend is the whole thing that like... I'm talking about, like, the whole thing, like, oh, don't watch it, because it'll just ruin shit. And she's like, oh, well, then can you just tell me what happens? I won't watch it, but, like, whatever. I'm like, okay. So I'm explaining this, like, thing to her, like, basically, Hajime becomes God and just gives life to everyone again. And the whole thing is, like, she's all like, oh, well, I mean, it's good that they're alive again, but that ruins everything! That's, like, the whole point of the entire series, Like,
maybe our gamer brains are just not meant to be underestimated.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, again, we talked about Kingdom Hearts 3 earlier. It's one of those things where I guess I'm alone in this with my despair-based brain system, but and I guess
he's joking.
I'm not joking, but like that whole thing. Some people will just like they want a happy ending so bad that they'll like ignore all like the things that made it interesting and like good, and it just really makes me upset. It's like you're missing the tragedy, you're missing the themes behind it.
Exactly.
You're missing the character development.
Yeah, not
like,
only
I get
that,
you want them to be happy, but you like them because they weren't happy.
Yeah, not only that, but like the whole thing is that, I mean, considering everything that happens, DR2 has a pretty happy ending. Because like Hajime's back to normal, and he's gonna work to get the ones who are still alive, like, back to normal too. And it leaves off on a, dare I say it, hopeful note, just like the first game did, Yeah,
where, like, you don't know, things have a high likelihood to be bad, but it, like, makes you feel that things will turn out okay.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole theming of the entire franchise. So, like, just making it
until V3.
Well, yeah, until V3. But, like, and then, like, just making it all retcon god power away removes the entire point, and then Nagito's just a pretty boy. Like...
Yeah, no, that is the thing that angers me most, because, I don't know if I should say it because, Nagito stuff, but they turn him from, like, the most complicated, interesting character in the entire Danganronpa series, and I'd argue probably my second favorite character in all of fiction, and they take him, because I'm going to go ahead and say that it's that much.
Oh, yeah.
And they take him, and they just make him some pretty boy, because Tumblr wants him to be a pretty boy, and they draw him as a pretty boy.
Yeah.
And he just, all he does is laugh, and he rarely mentions hope. It's always about how lucky he is, but his whole character arc was about hope and despair. It's like they forgot that because Tumblr really wanted to fuck him.
Exactly, that's the thing. Like, point is though, since we are talking about that with how it's ruining characters, let's talk about the two characters that actually mean something. I mean, Hajime probably has some themes to him, but outside of Hajime, the two characters that I mean something, starting with the lesser of them being Fuyuhiko. I just want to mention him because I think in a cast like DR2, it's important to mention the characters that actually work like him.
Because, like, the thing is, he would be one of the middle of the road, maybe a slightly higher characters in Danganronpa 1, but he's literally the only other character other than the big one that I can point out as being exceptionally great.
Yeah.
That's how, like, mediocre the cast is. Because, like, character, he gets very specifically targeted character development, and his character does this big personality 180 because he like has a really traumatic event happen to him, and he starts to rethink his life. And it's not immediate. They don't like pull like a fast one on you. They let him change and think about stuff, and then like and you feel his dedication because like he even splits his stomach open over for it.
Yeah, and not only that, which obviously all of what you said is true, but like, as the game goes on and you get to the end, he's one of the few characters, because of what he's gone through, you can feel like you can really trust, which is strange considering how he was in the beginning of the game and the fact that he's the ultimate Yakuza. And that's like the whole thing. Like, he's redeeming himself, which makes the whole thing at the end, when everyone seems to be giving into despair, when he does it, it really feels like it means something, because everything he's grown towards throughout this game is seemingly going to be reverted at the literal push of a button. And so, like, it means something with him. Whereas with Kazuichi and, like, Sonya, it's like, I mean, sure, they'll be more evil now, but, like, also it's not like... I mean, Kazuichi learned how to trust Hajime a little better sometimes, except for when the plot demands that he doesn't, so...
Yeah, like, in 4, he was still, like, going, wow, I can't believe Hajime's the traitor!
No, the funniest thing, I've said this before, but, like, Kazuichi was one of my favorites in 2, just in general, because he's likable. And so, the thing is that,
You related to him because he was a big stupid?
Yeah, I related to him sometimes, and as we've said before, he has the most realistic reactions to everything that's happening because he just screams. But the thing is that in his, like, I almost called them social links again, free time events, like, the last thing with him is basically him coming to terms with, like, I have trust issues, but I'm gonna try and, like, work towards, like, fixing that, and you know what, things have changed, I'm a new person now, different from how I used to be, and, I'm gonna work on that. And it's really funny, because I did that free time event right before Chapter 4 happened, where he immediately goes back to distrusting you. And it was like, okay.
Ouch.
It was like, alright, game, okay.
Sorry, gamer.
Yeah, sorry, gamer.
And this is a little bit of a side tangent. That is one of the issues with the free time event system. As much as they can extrapolate on a character's backstory, all real development has to happen in the main story, really. Like, you can learn more insight onto why characters do things. Like, you can understand, Kazuichi's doing that thing in Chapter 4 because he has a history of trust issues. But, like, like, they have to walk on eggshells because they can't do anything that goes against how the plot is set up to go. Otherwise, you get that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Oh, God.
And sometimes they drop the ball, and it does happen.
And what I hate, too, is that, I mean, like we were saying earlier, the free time events often, like, give more context to the characters, and I think, like, the biggest fucking example of that is with, like, well, maybe not the biggest, but one of the ones that comes to mind just because I did some of her free time events is Akane, because in her free time events, she's, like, an actual person. Like,
and her whole plot is, like, that she was, like, super poor, and, like,
yeah, she's an actual person.
She has some substance.
Yeah, she's an actual person, and then in the actual plot, she's just, hey, I'm really dumb, Hajime, you want to touch my boobs? Like, that's
yeah, and then with Nekomaru, you know what Nekomaru thing is?
I'm pretty sure I remember, yeah, but
I again, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's something like he has some kind of terrible terminal disease that's gonna kill him, and like there was a person that he was in the ER with who was like a coach for a sports team or whatever, and like he put his heart and soul into it, but he ended up dying, and so Nekomaru's thing is like, oh, I'm too sick to be able to actually like go in and do it, so I'm gonna pick up his mantle and I'm gonna be like dedicate whatever remaining life I have to being a coach and helping out athletes. And so that's why he's the way he is. He has, like, who would think he has a terminal illness, but that never affects his character.
Yeah, because he's just too busy shitting.
Yeah, he's too busy shitting. He's just a big laughy man.
Yeah.
And like, he sacrifices himself at the end of Chapter 4. Although I think the sacrifice is kind of like weirdly done and not nearly as impactful.
I 100% agree.
As it's done in DR1 Chapter 4.
100%. It's like a weird, like, double consent thing where, like, the reason that they sacrifice themselves isn't necessarily because they're trying to help the others, but because they recognize they're in a situation where one of them's going to die, so they just do it, and they both consent to it.
Well, no, it's. I think the idea is it's supposed to be a thing because Gundam's whole line at the end is that they're like they have to keep fighting for their life and they can't quit. But he knows that if he did the thing where he just kills himself, then that's the opposite message he's sending. So he's trying to say, oh yeah, you have to fight for your life. So, and then the idea is, oh, Gundam and Nekomaru had the same idea. So they're not going to give in and just kill themselves. They're going to have an actual battle, and then Gundam is going to try to put up half of a fight in the thing and dig into his villain persona so that he seems like he's sacrificing himself, like, you know, so that he seems like a villain and everyone else gets motivated instead of demotivated because he sacrificed himself.
Yeah.
But I feel like the way they do it, I don't know. It's something did not gel with me. It did not feel like nearly as much.
I definitely, I agree, definitely.
As much as it was more like, hey, we need to stop this. Let's kill each other, and then like we can like
Murder
figure this out later. Like, and I probably don't want the other people to die. So,
and actually, on the note, since we're talking about this, and I know we were like this led off from Fuyuhiko, one thing I do want to mention, because I know in the first game I was mentioning that I had some issues with some of the voice acting. A lot of it was like pretty good, but some of it was just kind of shaky, and I feel like from DR2 onward that really like fixes itself. Like I don't really have a problem with most of the voice acting, and one of the main highlights is Fuyuhiko's voice actor. I'm blanking on his name right now, but point is he's really good, and it only goes up from there, let's just say. But like he's really good.
Oh, and you know one other thing they do with voice acting that might move.
Oh yeah,
might be the last subject.
Yeah,
Hajime. It's me!
It's me!
Nagito Komaeda from Danganronpa 2!
Wait a second, Nagito Komaeda? Don't you mean Makoto Naegida? Wait a second.
Who am I?
Who am I? And why is my voice actor the same as Makoto's?
Alright, here we go.
Yeah, so here's the big character we need to talk about, being Nagito Komaeda, and obviously we're memeing him because he's the biggest meme imaginable. But let's take a moment, forget the memes, and talk about how this is like easily the best character in DR and just an amazing character overall.
Yeah,
like,
he has so many different like facets to him,
Yeah.
and he has like this whole philosophy, and he has like, he seems crazy, but if you look at his backstory and you think about it logically, there's a reasonable way why a guy would turn out this fucked up. You know?
Yeah, no, 100%. And the thing is that like, on one hand, the memes about him are really funny. like there's a reason why we constantly do a Komaeda voice with like, oh, Hajime, let's go to SeaWorld. But like, and he's hilarious in that sense. And just in general, seeing what he's up to and some of his lines, like, maybe I teleported. He has a lot of really funny moments, but like...
he's totally fucking with everyone.
Yeah, he's totally fucking with everyone, but on the other hand, it almost kind of sucks that he became such a big meme, because it almost detracts from the fact that he's an amazing character.
The thing is, I don't think it attracts. It's just one of those things that no one else, like other people, don't recognize him as the amazing character he is, because they just go, oh, funny Sans man.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
Yeah.
He's amazing.
He's amazing, yeah.
And like, the thing is, again, I said that there were the three things that are 10 out of 10 in this game, and it's those motivate you to play this game regardless of who the fuck you are. Like, you just have to, even though I feel the game at large is kind of very mediocre and a slog. Those three things are the twist at the end that all of the people are ultimate despairs, because that adds another layer to their characters, kind of.
Oh, well, unless you're watching 3.
Unless you're watching 3, then that's retconned. And then Chapter 5, which is mostly because of Nagito, and then Nagito's character as a whole. Because the thing is, throughout the entire story, he's the only one who's actively doing things.
Yeah.
He is the driving force. The main characters do jack shit. They just basically let things happen until Monokuma like introduces the next thing, and then they kill each other, and then like they give another island that has Nuku. Like, they're basically just waiting for Monokuma to force feed them.
The only character outside of Komaeda that really did something was, believe it or not, Tugami in the beginning. Like, he did some stuff.
But like, just fucking Nagito. He's a driving force throughout the entire thing.
Yeah.
You're constantly wondering both what his deal is and what the fuck he's planning. He's great. I absolutely love the twist, because if there's one good thing about him being a massive meme, is the fact that people don't realize that he's crazy and evil. Like, in an amazing way. So when they play Danganronpa 2, they're like, oh yeah, it's funny meme man, wow, he's just Makoto. Well, first of all, most people don't connect that he's Makoto until they start up Danganronpa 2 after 1, and they're like, wait. And then, or I guess is based off Makoto.
Well, yeah, he's Dark Makoto, just as in another character is another something, but you know.
I'm Dark Makoto, the ultimate school shooter, but
yeah.
the whole thing with him is like, you know, and he acts completely normal. And in fact, the first free time event with him, which you have to do if you want to get the other ones, is literally this, like, completely normal. It's like that of a other character. He just, like, kind of talks about his backstory or whatever, and you kind of have a hangout and you have a fun character moment, and he's a nice guy. That is what all that happens. And then, so, like, he's just, like, a completely normal dude. He's a little weird, but, like, he's such a normal dude. And with the memes, you don't think much of him. Oh, he's just a wacky man because he's Nagito. He's, you know, he's
Nagito. He has a weird voice, a weird design. Like,
yeah, and he keeps making basically memes about the first game with, like, no, that's wrong and stuff.
Yeah.
And then Chapter 1 happens, and it's like, oh, it's so much worse than that.
Oh yeah. No, and then it's like, I find it hilarious that the most despair-inducing moment, or one of the most despair-inducing moments in this game, is when you're going into the house to feed Nagito, because who knows what the fuck's gonna happen when you walk in.
Feed me, Hajime.
Feed me toast, Hajime. Oh, I'm a little tied up right now. I can't get to the kitchen. Like,
put it in my mouth, Hajime, please.
Oh, wait. Hajime, you're not gonna feed me? Hajime! Like,
Yeah!
Just like,
And it's
please
amazing.
stop. Please, God, stop.
He's like tied up in there, but he just has this smile. He's looking
yeah.
at you, and he's like, and he talks the same as he has the entire game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and whenever you see him in the game, it's always like, oh shit. Like, when, like, Chapter 2's investigation starts, and you're like, oh yeah, and you're going around, and suddenly he appears, it's like, oh, he's been unchained.
God,
he's been released.
No, and the best thing is the fact that, because, again, his icons originally, he's just smiling. Waving sometimes, you know, he's just giving his dumb forward look, you know, the Danganronpa A pose.
Yeah.
But, you know, and you think nothing of it. But then, after Chapter 1, every time you see it, it's so much worse. How he's just there smiling, and you're like,
yeah. And, like, every time you see him in Chapter 4 and stuff, especially when you get to play as him.
Yeah!
Like,
and especially when he fucking puts a gun with, like, Russian roulette, but there's only one spot without a bullet, because he's just so...
He's just so lucky.
So lucky.
After
so
all,
lucky.
What would an ultimate lucky student be if he didn't have any luck, huh? Then I'd be trash.
I'd be trash, and even if I do die, I'll be a stepping stone for hope.
Yeah, and he's one, like,
Yeah,
I really hope there's at least one
they've only
person who understands my pain right now.
I hope.
Yeah.
There definitely is. I think it's most people.
Yeah, most people who aren't us.
Here is a point.
Yeah. But, like, oh, fuck. It's so good. It's so good. And, like, the thing is, outside of Nagito, they only experimented with a character who is okay with dying one other time, and his was significantly less, like, explored. Like, Nagito's every facet of a character who has extremely motivated goals that do not care about the lives of the other characters, and he's okay with killing himself. Like, he is a constant danger, and when in Chapter 5 like, you get to see what he uses his life for, like, after it's built up of, oh yeah, you can kill me for whatever crazy setup, you know, it's like, oh god, whatever setup is he gonna be part of, it's gonna be crazy. And when it finally does, and it happens in Chapter 5, it's way crazier than you could think.
It's way crazier than you'd ever expect, and it's one of the greatest, like, fucking plot twists of when you realize what's happening. Like, holy shit. Like, it all wraps together in a nice little package of Nagito's character.
Yeah, and the best thing is at the end when there's like you can't choose you know, you have to guess to see what killer it is. You literally have to test your luck. Well, guess what? There are 5 wrong answers and 1 correct one. He's making you play Russian roulette with 5 bullets loaded.
Oh my god!
Yeah. Not only that, but then there's the added context to what he was doing in Chapter 6 when you realize that everyone's ultimate despair. And so the reason he was doing that was not because he wanted to get the traitor out like everyone thought, but because they wanted them to pick incorrectly so that everyone would die.
Yeah, his goal was to get everyone but the traitor dead, because the traitor was with the Future Foundation. They were the only who wasn't to spare.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is a unique level of lunacy that's hard to pinpoint.
Yeah, and they never do. They kind of try in V. I think. I mean, you could argue the twist is crazier, but like, there's nothing that has that many layers, but like there's just so much symbol. There's so much symbolism and layers with him. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I just. And my favorite thing, and this is kind of a bad mark at the end of the game, because like to the other characters, because one thing I hate is how in Danganronpa 1, you're playing. There are some stupid characters, but a lot of the characters are really, really smart and intelligent. Like, and the whole thing is Byakuya is the antagonistic detective, you know, and like they've got all this stuff. And so when we go into 2, there is first of all, there's the Detective 3-0. Everyone who isn't in there is brain dead.
They're stupid. Fuyuhiko's the closest to being a smart boy.
Yeah. Other than that, we've got Hajime, who is, as we're supposed to understand, that he's completely neutral in intelligence. Doesn't do any incredible feats of reasoning like Makoto does, although he kind of does based on just the fact that like
we're playing as him.
You're playing as him, and it'd be kind of a bad story if you didn't do any of the mystery solving. But like, of course, you know, they end up showing him in that kind of. Yeah. The story explanation is that he's completely neutral. He has no talent. He's just average intelligence. Chiaki, who's kind of smart, but first of all, she doesn't do anything for chapter 1. Unlike Kyoko, who basically finds one of the main clues. No, she finds all the main clues, actually, now that I think about it. She basically solves chapter 1 on her own. With some help from Makoto. In comparison, Chiaki doesn't do anything for chapter 1, and then she is kind of sort of a force that more so than actually solving mystery pushes people to ask questions in a different way.
Her main thing is
like, hey, maybe it's like this, Hajime.
Yeah, it's never that she directly states what's happening for the most part. It's that she's like, hey, Hajime, maybe if you look at it from a slightly different perspective, you'll find out. And then Hajime goes snowboarding in his brain for about 3 minutes. Yeah. And then he realizes what's going on.
Hey,
and then
Hajime.
he falls backwards somehow.
Hey, Hajime, we should go to the movies. Oh, what movie we should go? I don't know, Hajime. You should figure that out. Logic die of time. Yeah, meanwhile, he's sitting there with his finger on his chin silently for like 2 minutes while everyone else in the case is just looking around awkwardly.
Not fair! Chiaki gets to go to the movies with Hajime? I wanted to do that.
But so she's kind of there, but not really. So Nagito is not only like the really intelligent character in the game, but he is leagues ahead of probably I'd argue maybe any character in the series.
I'd say
valid reason.
I would say that the only one that gets close is Byakuya sometimes.
I would say the only one that gets close is Kyoko.
Oh well, and Kyoko,
Yeah, but like he's such a fucking master manipulator, and the fact that not only is he antagonistic, but I think he's way more antagonistic than Byakuya.
Oh,
100%. Even
100%.
Kokichi in the next game, because Byakuya's whole thing is like, oh yeah, I'll strike eventually when the time is right, and I'll make a great plan, and none of you will win. But with Nagito, he's constantly like, hey guys, want to talk about hope, guys?
Yeah, easily. Like out of the.
Oh man, but I love hope.
Don't worry, it's okay if you kill me. But if you do, I want you to tell me so we can strategize the greatest killing.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
Like,
Jesus Christ, you sick man.
Can you imagine if someone actually took him up on that offer? Like what would happen?
Yeah, that would be.
The story would be a lot more different.
Yeah.
I'd argue not as good, but like, I mean, it'd be interesting.
Yeah. It would definitely be interesting.
Yeah, because as Zanza was saying earlier, and we've kind of been saying throughout, Chapter 5 is like the best chapter in the entire series by far. At least if you're asking me and Zanza. So.
Yeah, because like the whole thing with all of the Chapter 5s, and I kind of don't like that Danganronpa does this, where they constantly reuse a convention, but just in a slightly different way. But in this case, I think it's fine, because I love this chapter. the Danganronpa 2, 1, and V3, they try to do weird things with chapter 5s, in which like, and I won't say what happened in 3, but in Danganronpa 1, it's like, we don't know the identity of who even died, you know? Like, all of us are still alive, what's going on? Is this supposedly the mastermind? But Monokuma's still working. But in 2, they take that to such a crazy level, because it's not only symbolic for him, not only has he been building up shit like the entire game of like you worrying about him, not only is he murdered in such a way, and there are so many steps, like he fucking tortures himself like crazy, but the mystery is that you can't solve it.
You can't solve the mystery because it's luck, and literally the entire time in the back of your head you have the ghost of Nagito like haunting you with, hey Hajime, who's the killer? You know, the whole time haunting you in the back of your head. It's like ghost Komaeda, just like
I've been turned into a ghost, Hajime.
I'm ghost
Nagito. I know for a fact that, because like I made it so that it was a rule that I had to be there for chapter 5 of this because it's so good, especially because of a moment at the end, which we'll talk about right before we wrap up, because we should start wrapping up soon.
Yep.
But like you said that like towards the end of that chapter that you felt violated by Nagito.
Yeah.
Because it's just so.
Which one of us said that?
You.
Yeah, I figured. I seem to remember saying that.
It was like so. It was great.
So genuine in its own disperseful little way.
Yeah, I mean, Zanza
with the conventions so much.
Yeah, Zanza's gotten to see for like Danganronpa 2 and V3. Most of my reactions to the big stuff, he's been able to see it, like my raw ass reactions, and some of them have been real good.
Oh yeah, they have. Although I think still, like, as much as no, that's my favorite. I was gonna say maybe watching your reaction to the end of V3, but no, I think this was probably my favorite.
Yeah.
You just being like, oh.
That's so gross, Nagito, get out of my body. Like,
yeah.
Leave. That's the thing, because like he's a great character, and I love him definitely in retrospect, and like realistically, I loved him the whole time in that sense of like I love him as a character. But the whole thing is every time I saw him, and I assume when most people see him, when they get a whiff of what he's all about, he's the most despair-inducing thing in the entire game. Yeah. You see him, and you're immediately scared. Like,
he's a constant wild card. You never know what he's going to do. You don't know if he's killed somebody. It's a mystery.
Hello there.
Hello there.
His mere presence is enough to send chills down my spine.
Yeah, there's a reason why I have...
is enough, and these two people have been torturing me with it for decades.
Torturing you with what, Hajime?
Hope, I assume?
Why would hope be torturing? It's the greatest feeling in the world.
Yeah. This is why I have every single... Oh, fuck, I keep putting out. Yeah. This is why I have every single sprite of Nagito saved onto my computer.
I mean, I do too. I do too.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Again, it's so good, and on one hand, it's almost sad that he's become a meme, but on the other hand, I'm so happy he did. Because it's so funny! It's so hilarious!
Because there's so many people who do the meme and they're like, haha, he's...
Yeah, the best part, I saw this one Tumblr post a while ago, where it was like, man, my favorite part about people who haven't been on Tumblr since, like, weren't on Tumblr, like, around 2012, is the fact that when they see Komaeda, they just know him as the fingers in his ass guy, and don't know that he almost blew up an entire island, and then someone responds with, fingers in his ass guy did what? like, I love it.
Yeah. No, but he delivers the best line of text ever. And remember, this is the big thing. Literally, this moment is what made me say, I need to not only suggest this for Game Library, but
Oh,
I need to continually hammer in this one joke when he's like, okay, now I'll tell you the password. 11037.
Yeah, no, when
And it
that
plays New World Order.
yeah, when that happened, I mean, Zanza knows what both of our reactions was. I was just
Yeah.
literally like, you can't be fucking serious. Like,
I was in disbelief.
yeah.
I know. And, like, the great thing is the fact that everyone who sees that has a different reaction. So, you guys had that. I know for a fact because I was there with Sync. What he did is he had, like, an actual fucking panic attack. He just started hyperventilating. And literally, he stood there. A minute later, he comes back to me and he's like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Like, he was actually dying. It was too much for him.
And I know that Dream, when he saw the line, he like closed out of the game and was just like ranting to us in the Game Library chat that we have on Discord.
Yeah. And then when I did
You
it, 'cause I
can't
don't
be
think I've
serious.
said,
You can't be serious.
I don't think I've said what my reaction was. Literally,
Yeah.
I read it, I stopped, I let out one of those single long prolonged laughs like and then I immediately, like, for 3 seconds, then I got up from my chair, walked away, and just started going, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where when you remember what happened to you the day you first saw that.
Yeah. There's 9/11 where everyone remembers like where they were when it happened because of this tragedy that happened in America, and slightly below that in terms of memorability is where you were when you first saw the line. So here's the password: 11037.
Yeah.
Do.
Oh yeah, and I fucking love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
it's a great way to wrap everything up. Oh, and just as like on that note, everything with like the last chapter and like going through the school of Danganronpa 1's map, but like weird glitchy stuff's real cool. And then Makoto, Kyoko, and Byakuya appearing at the end are really cool. Oh, that reminds me, there are two lines in particular that I want to point out. One is the Byakuya line of the thing of him basically like they're all saying like, oh yeah, we've had cameras kind of monitoring your entire thing this entire time. Then Sonya goes, oh no, I've done so many unsightly things in front of those cameras. And Byakuya just responds with, yep, you sure did. and then the other line that I think is the funniest moment. Okay, there's a couple moments that come close in V3, but I think the funniest moment that I've ever had in Danganronpa is like an unintentional thing. It's one of those like unintentional humor things in DR2 because I think it's chapter 4 or something. And I forget the exact context, but the whole thing is that there's like a big turning point in the case, and Hajime presents some like crazy theory, and everyone's like, well, like, hey, like, how are you gonna prove it, Hajime? Is it like this? Is it like that? Like, are you crazy, Hajime? And the whole thing is at the very end of the argument, Akane says a line where it's like, well, do you have any evidence? Or maybe Hajime's just really stupid or something. And maybe Hajime's just really stupid is a thing you can contradict. Like it's orange text.
It's something you can shoot.
Yeah, it's something you can shoot. So I was there with my one friend I introduced to Danganronpa, and I saw that, and I already knew where I actually needed to send it. I just wanted to see the full like conversation path. So I saw it, and without hesitation, just immediately clicked it. And despite the fact that it obviously bounced off and did nothing, I just go, no, that's wrong. And we just died because it was so good. Maybe Hajime's just an idiot. And just, no, that's wrong. I'm not an idiot.
Can't be.
I can't be an idiot. Oh god. But that's probably the most, like, one of the funniest moments I've had in this franchise, and it was completely unintentional from the gameplay, like the actual design of the game.
Yeah, it's great sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
So yeah.
I think that's just about everything I wanted to say.
That's pretty much all the main stuff.
Yeah, there might be
That's
something I'm
Danganronpa.
forgetting, but I mean, there's always
Yeah.
so.
Mm-hmm. I guess the one thing I want to say, I actually, like, through talking about this, I can say I'd probably bump the whole thing overall down to a 6, just sort of like, talking like through it. Like, yeah, like, because I don't think it's a 5 because I had more than
I think I'd do the same for my score. Yeah.
Wait, bump it down to a 7 or a
Don't
6.
bump it down to a 7.
Yeah, because
Weird.
It's like,
Because I would
yeah.
ironically, having talking about best moments, I would bump it up to a 6. So
yeah, it's weird. It's right around that area. But the thing is that just like talking about it overall, like again, I love like the good moments. The high points of DR2 are amazing. But like talking through it, I feel like overall as like an overall experience, it probably is a little
Yeah.
like if it's a 6 compared to DR1, it's like a 6.7, 6.8, you know? Like at least for me.
yeah.
Like but I still am going to count it as a 6 because, like, it's really close in quality to DR1. Overall, it's probably lacking something, but stuff like Komaeda really helps.
Oh, yeah. Again, for me, I think the game is largely a real kind of mediocre slodge, especially because all of the trials are double the length when they really don't need to
that's something I forgot to mention, but you mentioned before.
Yeah.
All of them are double length compared to the first one, so going from 1 to 2 is very noticeable because they have actual intermissions in the trials.
Yeah, but like in comparison, yeah, I think the higher moments are even higher than I like remember them being. So, and Nagito at the very least is present throughout the whole thing, so that can keep you interested. So yeah, I'll bump it up to a 6.
Yeah, because even after he's dead, I mean, there's like the cutscene stuff with Kamakura and like he has Junko's hand. So
yeah, Hajime, I got a lady hand, Hajime.
wow, look at this.
I'm Yoshikaga Kira Nagito.
Ah.
Yeah. Alright, well, that's everything I've got.
Do you have to get back to playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on your
my
Nintendo
Nintendo
3DS?
Well, before we get back to Animal Crossing New Leaf on our Nintendo 3DS's 3DSi, that's gonna wrap up our DR2 discussion for the most part. We slightly adjusted scores. I could probably flop between a 6 and a 7 all day with this one, so I guess 6.5 is more accurate overall.
All right.
Yeah, but point is, it's I enjoyed it overall. It's definitely a positive experience. It just has some rough patches in it, and that's all I think we've got to say about it. So, hope you've enjoyed that discussion regarding Danganronpa 2, and who knows when V3 will be a thing. But whenever we suggest it, we can record that episode basically immediately. So, like,
Yeah.
whenever V3 happens, it'll be a
might
fun
do it
time.
as a throwaway suggestion.
Yeah, V3 will be eventually. I don't know when, but I mean, I know we'll all have a lot to say about it, and I mean, hoo boy, there's a whole shit ton I absolutely adore about V3. So,
Oh yeah.
so yeah.
But yeah, until then.
Until then, hey Zanza, what's your next suggestion?
Oh man, so the next suggestion. One sec.
Oh.
So Austin, how are you doing? Oh,
No, don't go, please. So I will say.
you're being usurped.
I kind of said what our next thing is gonna be a while ago when Sylvia ended up posting footage of it, and then Austin, man, this game kind of looks interesting.
Yeah, I had a feeling. I had a feeling it was this.
Yeah, and so I was like, no, I'm gonna suggest this for Game Library at some point. I'll just say that outright. So don't play it yet. And the game is Fury, which is spelled F-U-R-I. And it's really cool. All I will say is it is a boss rush style game. It is really mechanically interesting and deep, and I will also the only disclaimer I'll say is you are not allowed to play on easy. You have to play it on normal because
okay.
All right.
Because reason, and you can't play on hard until you get the game one. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So play it on normal. And that's all I'm gonna say about it. It's got a really great aesthetic, and personally, I think Austin will really like it.
We'll see.
Yeah, So
I am intrigued.
That's gonna be the game for next time.
Nice. Hoo boy.
Nice.
Hopefully we'll get to that sooner. How much? I'll check how much Fury costs after this, but
Yeah, it's only like $10-15.
oh, that's not a problem at all. Then I can probably download it tonight. But
Yeah.
Cool.
yeah. Anyway, that's it for this episode of Game Library. A lot more,
All the time we got.
a lot more controlled than it has been for a bit, I'd say. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's how it be.
That's how it be. So.
It's nice to be honest. It's nice to be doing these again,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
between the three of us.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I enjoyed myself.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I
So
did.
hope you guys enjoyed this as much as we did for getting back to form. By the time that I'm uploading this, it'll probably be around a week from when we're recording it. Probably. So
Probably.
we'll have to see how that goes. But yeah. See you guys whenever we do the next one. Hopefully it'll be closer to a week or 2 weeks, but we'll see how it goes because college life for me is always interesting. But yeah, bye-bye everybody.
I hope
Goodbye.
things turn out hopeful.
Yeah, and even if it isn't the week after, I mean, the despair will keep building up and up and up, and that'll just make the hope at the end of the tunnel so much greater.
You got a point there.
Yeah! Anyway, thank you for watching this episode of Game Library.